Well,
Um,
I don't know. I always just go there to read because the
yeah,
timeline's a terrible place for drama. I mean, no, correction. The timeline's a great place for drama, but it's a terrible place for nuance. Like, it's a terrible place for anyone to actually flesh out their position, right? And so Substack is where I go for like actual drama. Like, it's like taking a step back in time, and I'm in an era where the YouTube reply feature never went away. And
yeah.
so Substack is my last place for like the reply X subject matter, which is interesting because I can at least have a semblance of that old early millennial internet where there was still this like quasi-liberal notion that we can debate everything out. Now I get it. Like, debate's fake and gay for most people, and it probably always has been for a lot of people. But at least on Substack, it's still something. And you can actually have good faith
Well, people
conversations.
can actually, people can actually read on Substack, unlike Twitter.
Yeah, the thread has been
Difference.
the thread kind of died. Like, I don't know what the algo changes have been for the last like 6 months. The thread is kind of dead, and unless it's a viral video or a shit meme, you're not getting any real. They killed it, and I know that they're like, well, we're gonna change it so we can make the small poster with the reliable
The long post really, yeah.
The long post is dead.
Yeah.
Although they
Nobody
changed the
cares.
character limit so you can long post, and they're like, fuck it. And then they're like, well, do you want to write an article if you pay for like the premium plus subscription? No, that's what Substack is for. And guess what? People are more likely to pay on Substack than they are a Twitter subscription. Ask me how I know. It's such a all platforms.
Well, there's no incentivization to really like, because you can't have a platform that's been free for so long and then expect people to pay for it. Substack, the subscription model was integrated from the start. So I guess there's like the expectation of there being a tip jar in virtual form. But
that's what I need is, now that you think about that, hold on. Wojak with tip screen. Everyone knows exactly what I'm doing. I'm changing my OBS camera. Where is it? These are all. Imagine that would be good. Leaving a tip, getting engaged in 2024. Add tip. Oh boy, these are some really.
Has anyone ever been doxxed given their info to subs? No, they haven't, but they have for Twitter though.
No, that's not true. That's not true. The reason why you can is because. It's on your end, i.e. the author's end. So when you do your payment info, do not put anything in. Like when people want like a receipt or how an invoice looks like, don't put any info that could be compromising in. Otherwise, you can get screwed over easy. And if you are a good actor, you would check your Substack subscription stuff. And if you notice that there's like a name that looks real or a name that you don't identify, you should probably DM that person and be like, hey, buddy, you need to go change your invoice settings on Substack on your end. That way you don't get screwed over. Because otherwise you will.
What's with the invoice? What's with the invoice setting? Like,
it's the same thing with Gumroad too, right? Like, this is how we know certain people are certain actors. Is that like you can go through your credit card charge or whatever, and then it'd be like, oh, such and such service on Gumroad or Substack.com, and if it gives you a name, then if it said like
you are an anon,
like if you're anonymous, you should be very careful about that stuff. This is why. I mean, no system's truly secure. I mean, outside unless you're doing like the whole crypto wallet thing. But you just have to be very careful.
So
you people asked for it.
I guess we're here. Get to the awkward part of what happened, or where have we been for a few months?
I did not think you wanted to do that on air, Gio, but that's fine if you want to.
Well, I mean,
I wasn't. I was here to give the audience exactly what they wanted.
All right.
We're back, kids. There's a return. We've been contractually obligated for 2 more episodes because a lovely gentleman paid us very good money, and we're going to see how well tonight goes. And then maybe we'll continue on in the future.
So let's skip that then. Then just screw it. Let's start over. I really did not want to talk about Iran news because everything is up in the air, but you did talk today with Oren, so maybe
I talked a little bit about it.
You people know my biases, but I personally think that, I mean, not that nothing ever happens, but we live in interesting times, and let me leave it at that. But what would be your general take? Obviously, um, being more invested in this as
as
an
much as I
American.
want to say nothing ever happens. I like Dimes's post that he made earlier on Telegram. Like nothing ever happens, but things get worse. It certainly seems
Sometimes a week where decades happen.
yeah.
It's
So
not the Stalin quote.
this has been it's a Lenin quote if I recall correctly.
Oh, sorry, that's the Lenin quote. Yeah.
Yeah, the weeks where decades happen, and like last week felt like decades happened because everything just became nakedly obvious about like the third world politics of my country. A white Democrat votes to end free healthcare for illegals, gets assassinated by what appears to be a very glowing asset, and it's like had a Twitter account that was made last month where he's like, I'm a Republican, no, I'm not a Democrat. And I'm like, okay, glow harder. And then the
We don't
rubber
know how
mat
much we could say on YouTube in this. It's an ongoing case, but
it feels real sketch. It glows. It glows. My skin burns when I get around that subject. Something is radioactively sketchy about it. I got a bunch of Mexicans doing the Atzatlán posting just like it's 1992, baby. And notice like all the black issues have kind of like miraculously disappeared as we're talking about like the Hispanic Central Global South.
they're going to. I feel in the summer they're going to find a way to wrestle attention back.
It depends on how long we keep making the focus about Central and South American immigration. Because if there's one group of people that hates the other one, it's blacks and Mexicans. So we'll see what happens. And then you had the all that happened with the Mexican flag, and then they brought out the old folks home for the No Kings protest stuff, which is all of this is very much what I would call like a psychic shock, in the sense that it is meant to disrupt you. It's like a penny on the tracks, at least for this administration, or at least for anyone who has any semblance of law enforcement capability. Like everything is meant to be this react response cycle, and there's nothing else about it that really sticks out to me other than they have to keep everything distracted. And I mean, prior to all this shit with Iran, everything in America was really focused domestically, which was awesome. However bad it may have been in terms of response to policy, we were talking about things like the Community Relations Service and trying to get that defunded. We had Elon Musk shitting the bed just like he did last Christmas over this big, beautiful bill with the economic argument.
Teaser for the core report I recorded.
Yeah, go listen to that when that comes out, or if it is out, go ahead and listen to it. And then on top of all that, like the whole issue was like foreigners out. We had our own little Auslander Ralphs moment. It was lovely, and then this happens. I'm not, no coincidences or whatever, but like, boy, oh boy, that really blows.
Yeah, I think if you go to Blue Sky, although I think Blue Sky is dying, a lot of people on there seem to be of the opinion that this guy was some kind of pro-life Republican, and but why would he take out? Okay, the DKs are semi-res cigarettes. Donald Trump giving. Why would he take out two people that actually voted with Trump? Was very interesting. So the narrative that they're pushing, that they're very, because again, I think that a lot of the narrative creation of the political left, especially on certain, let's say, activist or Antifa sectors, always goes a certain way, where there's a cloud of, how shall I say it, a cloud of maliciousness and evil that must be set upon people that question the narrative. And the narrative itself is due to some kind of nebulous threat of stochastic radicalization or something of that nature. And so they are following essentially the same script. But a lot of this is very interesting because out of all the people, and like, for example, I don't know, he had some list, and even though Tim Walz appointed him, something like that, it's just the narrative just doesn't make any sense from that perspective. Out of all the Democrats, the two people that did actually side with the big beautiful bill, it's just. But then again, I think that we live in very schizoaffective times politically, and so therefore, sort of like the previous ones who were, well, markedly younger, of course, the mass fun posting incidences that we've had, they don't have, I mean, they kind of do, but at the same time, they don't have a very clear ideological narrative or indicator. It just seems, and I don't want to just say that people are crazy, so they do crazy things. More of that, the political dimension is something more abstracted than just what people, especially what Americans, are used to hearing in terms of various instances. Whereas the ones previously, I mean, you could say have like a clear ideological motive, but this, I mean, maybe it did. I mean, it's just, yeah. But the No Kings protest is very interesting too, because if you look at it generationally, um, it does go towards the trend of like the boomers colonizing youth culture forever until they kick the bucket. Uh, but at the same time, I mean, this No Kings thing, I mean, it's very, I don't know, maybe because I didn't like grow up in that American historical consciousness, and my country actually does have a king, while in name only, but whatever. I think that it's kind of like they're adopting a very juvenile, anarchic ideology: no kings, no gods, no masters. But it's because of Trumpism, which was, I mean, protest was inevitably going to happen. And it'd be very interesting if a Democrat wins in 2028, what the right is going to do if JD Vance is not the successor. But it's just, to me, it's very interesting how boomers are still well into their 70s, some of them, going to adopt an ideology that's essentially meant for 15-year-olds. Because real 15-year-olds, at least some of them, at least the young men, let's say, have a completely different outlook than no gods, no kings, no masters. And so I think that I don't know, like, you see some of these videos and them doing very stupid things, and it's like kind of arrested development. But that becomes the narrative. It's sort of like when Trump 1.0 was there, the narrative that was more salient was the sort of 2010s wokeism and feminism. And so the Women's March became very salient. Whereas here, it seems that the politics, while remaining the same on the left, have a markedly different flavor in terms of what they're attacking, which is like, you know, America was always this like progressive liberal nation that hated kings and King George and all this stuff, even though, you know, the real history of America is more complex and nuanced than whatever narrative you could place upon it. But it's just, I mean, it's very interesting how the anarchism aspect of the global left is, that's the one that wins out. At the same time, you also have this like neoliberal turn among the political left, because in response to tariffs and other Trumpian policies of protectionism and so forth. So it's kind of very interesting how like younger people are becoming like neolib policy wonks like Matty Iglesias, and the older boomers are becoming like incredibly juvenile 15-year-old anarchists. And it's just very, very strange. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I on top of that, like there's I think you need to keep all fronts active. And I mean, on one hand, it certainly feels like they have to get ahead of the messaging of what came out of Los Angeles. So now it was this like nationwide roll out the old white boomers who are libs. And
Yeah.
I mean, the videos that came out of that, I mean, it felt like a shadow, like a husk, like this disgusting shriveled corpse of like the white millennial screaming no at the inauguration in 2017. Like it was just the geriatrics. It was just the elderly. It wasn't anything particularly exciting, and it only lasted one day. It was a weekend. It hasn't been like ongoing violence and complaints from little ethnic enclaves out in the middle of nowhere. And so like watching all of it, you just get like this incredible feeling of like, well, this is out there. And also like it's always the left heel turn about like appealing to the Constitution and appealing to da 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 da, when, you know, those norms have been dead for decades. And
Yeah.
so to have them come out of the blue and just be like, yeah, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, la da 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 da. And it's like it felt like a wet fart. But even then, what is at stake more than anything at this point is, okay, well, clearly what we have to deal with is It's optics, it's a concern over what's to come, and it's the fact that the sort of last dying gasps of a generation that always wants to be trying to reinvent the energy or recapture the moment of the who called it that the other day, the civil wrongs movement. I loved that line. It was so good. Like, just that's what all this is like this weird ghost dance about like liberal white progressive activism. Whereas I compare what actual white liberal progressive activists were doing in the 60s and 70s, those guys were like bombing people and holding rich people hostage and engaging in racial murder. Although I guess that's been outsourced to other groups in this country nowadays. So it's this weird juxtaposition between like, we want like a softer, literally like, you know, gummed teeth type of protest imagery versus, you know, what is the naked truth, which is that the country is so demographically at a breaking point that this is exactly what it's going to be like from now on when it comes to the left. So, yeah.
But it's very interesting how there was this one video, I forget who shared it. I think it was the Royal Seraph. This one boomer woman, she was clearly in her 70s. And she was like, I can't believe people would vote for this man. And I'm not going to lie. Like, there's a lot of things to criticize Trump over, especially
plenty.
The events of the last 48 hours. But I think, well, not to blame everything on the boomers, obviously, but like, there's a whole heaping lot of reasons as to the world that has been shaped from the 1960s onwards as to why a huge demographic of Americans would vote for someone like Donald J. Trump. And I think that it's kind of interesting how, as for younger people, politics becomes something that's more existential and at least has the appearance of becoming something more than the sort of like post-night, because let's be real here, like maybe some of us were alive in the 80s or the 70s, but in terms of like millennials and Zoomers, the consensus reality from the 1990s onwards has been this sort of like quiet humming along of civilization and the sort of like abundance of the Western world, and becoming like a weird hypermodern or postmodern driftwood where nothing really has any gravity or weight to it. But as times change and as politics especially becomes very weighty for most people, it seems that the boomers are this resignation that we're going to have like one last LARP at protest politics, like it's the summer of 68 all over again, but it doesn't really matter. And do they actually believe what they're, you know, going out there? Because a lot of them, I guess, in the back of their mind are like, well, I'm in my 70s or my 80s, well, my 60s or 70s now, so I'm not going to be around forever. And I guess some of them can delude themselves into thinking that protesting Trump or whatever is going to like secure the future, but really it's just to secure their own sort of pastiche of political radicalism right up until they actually are in a retirement home. And the younger people are going to have to sort of pick through the midden heap or the waste pile of it. And I think like this whole no kings thing, it's just I don't know, like, okay, we don't have a king. I mean, well, I have a king technically, but most people that live in a Western country, it's not that you necessarily have a monarchical arrangement, but you certainly do live in a command economy and in a command social order, whether you like it or not. And so it's I mean, has there ever been a time in which you have total anarchic freedom? No, it's ridiculous. It's so, I mean, one form of power is clearly legitimate over another, according to them. And of course, we believe in a form of legitimate power over them. And so I think if there was sort of a political rectification of names where people are actually honest about what they want. And I think like this is why like a lot of people, you know, on the online right talk about Carl Schmitt, and some of them butcher it, but I think as a whole, people talk about a sense of political clarity. You know, you actually do want to punish your enemies. We want to punish your enemies. Everyone wants to live under some form of authoritarian rule. It's just that authoritarian rule has been masked and cloaked by the machinations of mass society as a whole, where you can sort of delude yourself into thinking that we live in this like totally free, liberal, individualist society where you can pick and choose anything you want. You can sort of entertain yourself with anything you want. And actual political power is something that sort of kind of hums in the background, but doesn't really affect your daily life all that much. One response to that is actually that's pretty scary, because humanity has lived throughout history with power being front and center and present. But the other response is that, well, okay, and I guess this is like what AA talked about with Oren, about the paranoid, he mentioned the paranoid style of American politics.
Oh, yeah.
Conspiratorially, if you are tricked into thinking that power is not there, but it remains hidden, but it's there nevertheless, then you actually don't live in this sort of pretension to like liberal individualism. In actual fact, in which a lot of people are trying to, I think, enumerate, but just can't find the words to say it, is that, well, do you actually want to live in that society of total free, anarchic, liberal individualism? And I think that for the vast majority of people who don't question it, it's like, well, that society is actually kind of very alienating to most people. But yet it's like this weird ideal that these liberal boomers are fighting for with the no kings thing, even though it's not necessarily that you live under a king, but you do live unironically under some kind of authoritarian structure, whether you like it or not. It's just that it's faker and more LGBTier than you can possibly imagine, than even some Chinese Politburo. I mean, social techniques have been a thing forever. And yeah, exactly. Geo echoing Byung-Chul Han. Yeah, well, exactly. The illusion of opticality. Exactly.
Also, I think it's kind of funny that like the first person to write about a king came from the National Review, Never Trump types. I remember it was like before this protest stuff came on news or anyone's mind. I think it was like David Hassanyari or whatever his name is. I've interacted with that guy once, and it was during the 2020 election. And to which I kind of flat out said that like his the lack of stimulus checks probably had a negative economic or political calculus for him. And he's like, well, it's a good thing we're not economic populists. And I'm like, man, you're a fucking idiot. But like, he was the first one who wrote it, where he was just like, admit it, you really want a king. And I'm like, I don't even have a king. I have an executive branch that can't exercise what has been historically precedented normal executive authority without Congress, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, and half the country engaging in an effective nullification crisis. And the problem is that because we're so stretched abroad, and we'll see what the hell happens either tonight or tomorrow in the next 48 hours or so, that we can't ever focus on the domestic issue, because I said this on Orange Show, like all this other stuff abroad is proof that like it's not sustainable. You can't walk into a war half cocked, or you can't engage in the current rate of expenditures of ammunition or money or whatever, because we don't make shit anymore. And I'm sorry, you can't go out on your way and say, well, we're making deals, when the deals that you're making are only exacerbating the problem. Like, why are we letting these Chinese people back in? We shouldn't. I mean, we just arrested 2 of them for bringing in blight that they wanted to genetically modify to target our wheat crop. Like, what the fuck? And at the same time, did you see the
Khalistan protest?
I did. Like, again, like you can't. All bait, like this is the thing that kills me, is like, and you mentioned it too, throughout history, there has been relatively strong authoritarian regimes, whether they are administrative, judicial, monarchical, or whatever. And all of these court systems, or whatever you want to call them, all of them kind of recognize that internal divide is what kills the state. The Black Fez of Revenge. That's funny.
I tweet out I'm raising a cannoli of revenge, but
there you go, cannoli of revenge. So it's just that like the ability to project power abroad cannot be maintained at the current rate of decay at home. This has been the most obvious observation made by even liberal, like realist international relations scholars. They're like, this shit's unsustainable. Like, either you figure out a political solution at home. I mean, most of the time they're like pro-liberal norms or whatever. But even they're like, listen, the current rate in which we're falling apart domestically is only going to prevent America from doing anything it wants to do as a hegemonic power, regional or global. And everyone who is sort of like the MAGA base, the people who've been fucked over the longest by said ongoing policies of liberal hegemony, have been calling that alarm for over a decade now. And a lot of other guys much further to the MAGA base's right have been calling that out for decades, longer than you and I have been alive put together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well,
Pat
I guess
Buchanan.
Pat Buchanan being one,
right,
Buchanan, Wilmot Robertson, and a couple other spicy names I'm not going to drop
Sam
on
Francis,
air. Yeah, well, Sam Francis is his cancellation. I don't know. I think he's been slowly been rehabilitated. Thank God.
Who was the one that the girl that doxed Greer was studying under? Sobran.
Joe Sobran got viciously canceled in the same way that fucking Francis did, because I think they were both pro Amren. They spoke at Amren, and Joe was like had a paleo conservative position on Israel, where he's just like, this country is going to drag us into a war. And I mean, Pat Buchanan got in the same trouble because I think he had said that Israel owns Congress at one point in the late 90s, and it's just like, well, none of that's changed. None of that. All that has aged particularly well.
There was this Keith Woods. He retweeted. He put out this debate. It was only 6 minutes long because Fox News, right?
Oh yeah.
It was Sean Hannity, the wall banger, versus Pat Buchanan, and Buchanan was going through especially in 2015 when he was doing this, was going through the nuances of the region and how America will support one side that's radically Islamist, but another side that's secularist. It's like, but then Sean Hannity, I guess he couldn't process this, and it's like Iran. Like even today, you had Mark Levin trying to gatekeep MAGA to say that there's these other people that sound like Rashida Tlaib and Duke, and it's just but no, I was gonna say there was one great point I remember. I was listening to a Twitter space with him, Prude, outgoing misanthrope.
Oh yeah.
He's got the doggo at me, and I was like, I had to drop off. I think I had to like get my mom something, but then I ended up doing like a smaller plein air work behind this pharmacy. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I ended up doing that. It only took me like 20 minutes. So he was doing this Twitter space with someone that I don't think I should mention on air, but not to say I agree with everything, but he had this point about the separation of power in the ancient regime and modern realities of politics and society, meaning that before, when power was very overt, when you lived in a very semi or outright martial society, where you do have either a monarchical figure, you do have military presence, you do have then later into the 20th century, various millenarian ideologies that made power overt as a manifestation of public consciousness, as a symbol. Those places, those societies in the ancient world up until the 20th century, they always had sort of, maybe not in like the 20th century ideologies, but certainly in the ancient regime, you have spaces where people were largely left alone. You had spaces where you could truly have a private sphere. Now, religiosity was a very funny thing because, of course, the church had various, or rather, the church, or like with Islam in the Arab world, was a manifestation of political power as well. But you still got to go home as a quote unquote peasant. You still had a sort of reprieve from the greater political auspices of that civilization. But now that power becomes decentralized, and again, this is a very Foucauldian point as well. Now, from the 20th century till now, especially in the internet age, that power is at the same time hidden. It becomes ever present. Now everything is political, to what you're watching on television, to what slop game you consume, to like even today, I saw this like Disney animation that flopped, or was it Pixar, and the kids autistic. It is like, you have to watch this because it has this sort of rainbow diversity or whatever. But it's like, you can't escape from political reality as power recedes from public consciousness, or rather as the manifestations of power recede from public consciousness. And so I think the only way that modern people, especially in the political left, can conceptualize it is sort of like the media generated image of the king. And I think like Trump, in some ways, we said on the show before, like certainly plays into that aesthetic. I mean, with the 80s machismo, golden columns, and well, I was gonna say golden arches, but I guess the golden arches truly are a symbol of the American empire that Trump embraces. But not to say that Trump is a king, of course, but I think he's still beholden to other interests and so forth. But I think that like what people fear the most is an externalized manifestation of power, even aesthetically. But in actuality, when you actually look at the civilizations and societies in the ancient world, it's like, not to say that they were freer than us, because I think just material conditions dictated that they were less, quote unquote, freer than we are. Of course, I'm not like doing some kind of vulgar tradism, but I certainly think that power becoming manifest in a very clear location means that people can truly have a private sphere. Whereas, like, one thing, if you like read Jürgen Habermas or whoever, one thing about like modern liberal modernity is that, well, there's a private public distinction. But nowadays we know that that's kind of a lie. There is no such thing as a private public distinction. It's all just public. It's all just political. When the libs say that all art is political, they kind of are right. It's kind of like woke, more correct. But it's not in the way they intended, of course, but it's just the nature of the world that we live in. And so I think that to rebel against it and say that, no, we don't want like a clear manifestation of power is sort of the only word I can come up with is juvenile, I guess. And so I don't know. It's just, I hope I made myself clear, but that was a great point that ongoing misanthrope made with a certain Afghani man. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the thing that sort of just kills me about it is that it's like, did you not learn from everything that I guess the last, I don't know, however long you've been involved online has been, that like the NGO is just a velvet glove the state wears, you know? Like it just feels particularly like this. A lot of this doesn't feel new.
No.
In the sense that it just feels like it's the same old. And it's like that meme. It's like, I don't see it anymore. I just see psyop, I see gay ops, I see whatever. And it's like, yeah, I really do see that.
You know that David D's at it, but it's like the ancient Giga Chad getting like
Like I just feel old as shit. And that's all that it is I just feel old as shit. And I'm just tired. I'm just exhausted because, like, at the end of the day, all that we do, and it's funny because, like, Luke Smith has made a weird return from his like Appalachian hidey hole to make videos again. But like, he was like, listen, even if you are a particular person who does not engage in if you don't like certain groups or whatever, whether it's vegans or he used vegans as an example, it's like your mind is still being fucked by them. By exposure. What he's basically describing is cognitive behavioral therapy or like exposure therapy, but even on the stuff that you hate, that still messes with you. And so in a lot of ways, it's just like, I've been more or less programmed like the monkey strapped in the chair to react and to watch and to be part of this system, which perpetually engages on whatever psychic energy I have left that is meant to preserve my immortal soul on bullshit that I have no control over, while we are all sort of just impotently watching things get worse. And so what have I been effectively reduced to? I've been effectively reduced to being programmed to post and to react and to watch and to just be like, well, this is it. This is all I got going for me. And that's such a fucking waste of my time almost.
I had this rant stirred up as to in 2028, if Gavin Newsom runs against I guess JD Vance, but who knows? I had this thing where it's like I you know how Gavin Newsom can win in 2028? Okay, I'll tell you how. He follows the James Carville plan. He tones down on hating men. He tones down on hating white people. He tones maybe down on certain other, let's call them Decepticon and engendered ideology. And you know what he does? He goes right across to the debate stage to JD Vance and he says, you know what? Those people want you poor. Those people want you broke. Those people want to take away your Gibbs. They want to take away your Medicare. They don't care about you. And I think that would be, the winning Democrat strategy, because people have been predicting that the Democrats are going to collapse any day now. But I just don't think that. I mean, it's only been a year. Has it been a year in Trump's second term, or has it been less than a year?
It's been less than 6 months.
And then how many things have happened? Some of them out of Trump's control, obviously. Some of them out of Trump's control. But no, Sean Weiland's correct. It's the economy's stupid. But more particularly, I think that if Trump does not manage to wrestle the excesses of the older GOP ideology, where they actually do want to go after people's health care and so forth, I think that that's going to present a huge problem for any successor that Trump picks. I mean, let's be real here. In 2025, it looks like JD Vance, but we have 4.5 years. And sorry, 3.5 years. So you don't know who's going to come down the pipe and maybe win the party's favor, or if the Republicans, I mean, half of them probably are going to expire by then. I mean, look at guys like Chuck Grassley or Lindsey Graham.
They're all dead or retired at least by that time.
But so I think but if the party wants to get together and maybe like have a power struggle between MAGA and like what was the Republican Party. But then again, if you realize, like, if Trumpism irreparably did change the GOP, it's like you're going to be more than 10 years out from like 2000s Fox News, Sean Hannity conservatism. So it's like that would be a very interesting fight. But I think if Gavin Newsom were to focus on economic issues, were to tone down the excesses of like 2010s ideology, that could potentially, I know people are, snickering a little about Gavin Newsom and the whole thing with California. It doesn't make him look good. But I think that, it's 2025. 2028 might look vastly different. Or maybe it won't be Newsom. Maybe it'll be somebody else. Pray to God it won't be AOC, but Newsom looks like the best guy they got. Let's be real. Optically anyways. And he's got the support of the regime, more or less. But anyways, and I think like also another thing too, speaking of moving on from 2000s ideology, even this current engagement with Iran, it seems that people do say like we have to spread democracy and these people, we have to fight for the freedoms and democracy. But it seems like that message, especially, with the Ukrainian thing, I think like that's sort of waned in a lot of ways. And now it's sort of like they're just telling you what they actually want, which is to destroy rival regimes. And I think like that's a very, I don't know, maybe the second Trump term is the term where power actually does manifest itself again. Who knows? But I don't know what you think about that, Prue. I mean, I don't know. I still think if the Democrats had any sense, they probably would run Gavin Newsom in 3.5 years from now, but I don't know.
Only time will tell. And I mean, I think that the left in America with its coalition is stuck in this perpetual feedback loop and I don't even think it's like a feedback loop that's unintentional. I think that it's also very deliberately designed, because all that you've effectively done is you've taken all outside stimuli, whether it's the news abroad or domestically, and you've effectively made it points of friction that will constantly be used to go against to pit one part of the faction against the other, and to keep it on a loop where it's like that. Like, I don't see like the whole David Hogg thing that just happened with the DNC vice chairmanship or whatever. Like, where does a Newsom Carville strategy, like, does it work? It would be interesting to see it work. I mean, I don't know who that it would really particularly appeal to outside of maybe like Asians, like liberal Jews and liberal whites, where it kind of like tones the rhetoric down. But then like all your young Zoomer radicals,
they're not going to be happy.
Well, exactly. And I'm sorry, but like Gen Z is the Democratic Party for most parts per voting patterns. I mean, like, unless you're male, then it's pretty 50-50. But if you're white,
Olivia Giuliana is the Democrat Party.
Well, right. Like Olivia Giuliana is the face of the Democratic Party for Gen Z, which is a morbidly obese, light-skinned Mexican. That's what you're dealing with. And Olivia Giuliano talking about like whatever.
We need to
on
get men
time.
back.
Oh yeah, we need to really win them over. Like, no, you need to kick them out. But like,
you know what I
like,
don't understand? There's so many beautiful people. Well, not really. I mean,
you can
but,
find a pretty libtard. It just doesn't mean like in their
yeah,
soul it's ugly.
yeah.
But
No,
like,
I was gonna say in Hollywood, you could find like an actress. You could
can we
find
get
like,
into that real quick? Can we?
oh yeah.
Who coined the term untranny valley? That was so good. Because I looked at her, like I genuinely looked at the photos, and I was thrown off. I think Gary had said like she looks like
Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, like the whole Sabrina Carpenter thing.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm not going to recite
it's not
the
for
Howling
the male
Mutant.
gaze, it's for the male gaze.
It's for the gay gays, is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, like that whole shtick, that whole
or that
look.
Rhea girl, the Rhea, what's her name?
I'm old
don't know,
and out
man.
of touch.
I'm so old. I've been getting into country lately. I have been getting into outlaw country lately. I don't know.
Like none of this. I don't want to recite the Howling Mutant tweet, but I'm like, like, dude, come on. What's going on here, buddy? And
I've been listening to a lot of Waylon Jennings recently. I don't know anything about this.
I have been on a Hank Williams kick for the last week. And
senior or junior or the third?
Hank Williams Sr.
Okay. They say that Hank Williams III comes very close to his grandfather.
I would have to give it a listen. My phone, I was listening to a record with my roommate, and it was a series of Hank Williams Jr. and Sr. covers. And my phone had just picked up on it. So I've been listening to a lot of Hank Williams Sr. and Jr.
First time I ever heard Hank Williams III, he was the bassist for Superjoint Ritual, which they had great few albums. That's where Phil Anselmo went after Pantera went by the wayside. The tragic, what tragically happened to Dimebag. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Hank Williams III, they say he's got the same spirit as his father. His grandfather. But I don't know. I mean, Hank Williams Jr. is pretty good too. But Vincol's like a lot of people have that attitude. Hank Williams Sr. But like Hank Williams Sr. like changed music forever, not just country. Like it's like, imagine you being Hank Williams Jr. You had to like fill those shoes. It's really, oh my God.
Yeah. And
that's
so
Waylon Jennings' grandson sounds exactly like him. Y. Jennings. But anyways, go ahead.
But like, so like the attractive Democrat thing, like,
get Sabrina Carpenter up there and be like, give her that black hair job again, and then just put her there. And anyone who's going to vote Democrat already listens to Sabrina Carpenter.
Sure. I mean, it's the same thing with like Taylor Swift. Everyone who votes, who listens to Taylor Swift is already voting Democrat, most likely, unless you're the guy that's like doing the whole right-wing Lana Del Rey, right-wing Taylor Swift edits. Like it's
Girls, the most right-wing series ever made. Girl.
I'm sorry. That was a really shit take. It's not right-wing television. I know everyone tried to make that scene with Adam Driver to be like this like right-wing inflection point, but I think you have to understand that I get the whole death of the author or whatever, but like, no, like they consulted with all those groups for that scene, and they've consulted with them for that entire show. And it's just like all that TV is nowadays, and I forget where I was reading this, but television nowadays is far more over the head with it because they have to be, because no one's watching that shit for the plot. Television is made these days to be the background noise because you don't want to be alone in your depressing fucking studio apartment with like a bolt on the door and a like lock gate on there because you're waiting for your fucking takeout to get in, but you're too afraid to step outside. It like TV is made to have in the background while you're like washing dishes or eating dinner, halfway paying attention because you're scrolling on TikTok or Instagram reels on your phone.
It's like Hallmark movies.
Television has gotten worse. You will never get another show, even shitty TV shows and shows that shit the bed. Like you'll never get a How I Met Your Mother. You'll never get another House. You will never
get another Carnival ever.
You will never get another. You will never get another set of good television that came from the series of like after Friends and before the ubiquity of Netflix. That was a small window where television was still halfway written decently. the vulgar era, as Lindy Mann and others like to say. Like that's dead. It's gone. It ain't coming back. And so we're stuck with this Untranny Valley list of like androgynous looking actors and actresses that are meant to like do the whole will they, won't they when it comes to whatever they want to identify with. And it's like, well, none of this is good. None of this is
like that one non-binary one that got dicked down by a huge hunk megastar, and then she stopped identifying as non-binary.
Was this that Billions TV show actress or actor or whatever the fuck it was?
No. This was some Pops or some other actress. I mean, was she on Billions? No, not that one. Not that one on Bill. Oh, maybe actually. I
don't watch television, and like this is the funny thing. Like when I recommend, because I don't watch TV unless I'm with my fiance. And even then, like when I do it, I'm recommending her shows I know she hasn't seen before. And I'm recommending TV shows that are like 10 years old. Like, you know, like I introduced her to the TV show Hannibal, and that premiered like 10 years ago. And it's just, she's like, this is really good TV. And I'm like, yeah, nothing like this exists anymore. Like it's all gone. Like, you know, like on one hand, it's nice to like introduce something good to somebody, but like, it's really hard to do that now. And it's particularly depressing because it's like, oh, there's that weird communal joy of being able to say like, hey, this is really good. And it's the same thing with like the games industry. Like the games industry has gone to shit, and we've gone full circle though with this. Like, okay, so like everyone used to know that stuff was good when your friends talked about it. Like there was the word of mouth was the primo level of all things being
wrestling
good.
was good when your friends talked about it on the playground.
Exactly. Things were good when your friends talked about it on the playground, or they told you have to play this game or come over to my house to like watch this movie or play this game. These were the things that were the friendship aspect that you created a third place within a medium, whether it was TV, a movie, or a video game. Right? Okay. So this became the primo gold standard was I trust my friend. My friend is like similar to me in opinion. I trust my friend. Ergo, I'll go watch movie, TV show, match, game, whatever. And
that's how I started watching wrestling when I was like 6 years old.
This is how I got into David Lynch, because a very good friend of mine recommended that I give Twin Peaks a try, and I'm really glad that she did. And it's like, now I'm a big David Lynch fan. And so it's just like, okay, then we created all these industries. The games journalism thing's a really good example. Like, do you guys remember that G4 used to be on television? And that like, you remember G4? Yeah. You remember this used to be a multi-million, if not billion-dollar industry where you were like having E3 and that you could interview these guys in like a talk show format, and this was on fucking television, and that they would do like live demo playthroughs of games on live television. You could understand when Fallout 3 was coming out, and people would show you this interview and shit in live demos on G4 on television, and then it became fake and gay. Because then the internet came out, and then we kind of understood that it was easy to pay for influence. Then all Gamergate play. So where are we now in the year of our Lord 2025 when it comes to TV, video games, movies, etc.? We have
Andor.
Said, Andor, right? But like we have now come full circle to where we created intermediaries to tell us what was good. We turned out all those intermediaries are whores and are pay for play, and we've gone full circle, and we're back to our friends. And we're back to our friends telling us what's good. And we're back to us going to our small niche basket weaving forums on the internet telling us which games are good, which movies are still halfway decent. And now, you know, we've slopified everything where now there's roll slop, parry slop, shooters. Like, I hate the overuse of the term, but like everything has become reduced now to just word of mouth. And it's like, do I trust this guy enough to give it a shot? And that's literally how I buy and play video games these days. I play
Reboot Leisure Suit Larry.
Reboot Leisure Suit Larry, and it'll be in VR chat, and then someone's going to get arrested for grooming.
Well, hey, Fish Tank Live came out with a game. Sam Hyde, they came out with a game for Fish Tank Live. So, I saw the Rachel meltdown today, but no, it's funny because there was that shooting game that was very similar to Cruelty Squad. It was going to be the next one, but they found out
was
the
it
dev
made by
is
the
actually...
same people?
No. They found out this dev is actually living in a certain Middle Eastern country engaged in a certain conflict, and so
they found out he's Israeli.
Yeah, so immediately, like, all of the Zoomer, like, leftoids, they, like, just dropped it like a hot potato from Steam, and it was like, well, I mean, you didn't know that your psychedelic shooter game may be propaganda for something, maybe manufacturing consent for something. Sloppy Joe Stalin mentioned that new Walking Dead City. My mother watches that. But the thing is, like, they had to like give this like weirdo face turn to Negan, because in a real zombie apocalypse, as I've said, Negan would be the one who wins, not Rick Grimes. Let's be real here. So they had to neuter him. They had to make him a face. It's like, like it's like who is like one of the greatest. It's sort of like,
let's keep in mind, this is Dead City, which started what, like 23 is when that show came out or whatever. Like it's recent.
Yeah.
Let's understand that The Walking Dead started on Halloween night 2010. Like Gio's got a whole rant on the show on the Cole Report or on his own special thing. But like, we're talking about a franchise that is now old enough to get a driver's license. Like old or
Jersey and Punk.
Like it's old enough to get a learner's permit or whatever. And in some places in Europe, it's old enough to drink.
It's old enough to vote.
It's old enough to vote, and it's old enough to get in trouble with the law, depending on whatever you fool around with. So it's like, okay,
it's old enough to go to an ROTC office.
It's enough to it's enough to get in trouble online for talking to a girl on Discord. Like, that's how old it is. And so it's like, okay, we're talking like franchise fatigue is already real. There's no trust in any studio or channel or very little trust in directors to make anything good. Like, there's some stuff that's like competently made. Does it mean it's good? No, not really. Like, I have really Nosferatu, competently made. I got a lot of issues with it, like, way to fucking like punch me in the balls 45 minutes before the thing ends, like a ruined orgasm. But like, it's the same thing with all this other stuff, like with franchises or TV or whatever. It's like, I don't trust you anymore. It's like AMC, like, they had the greatest run in the 2010s.
Truly generational run. Truly
like,
generational
The Walking Dead.
Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Mad Men.
Mad Men.
Mad Men, I think it started.
My favorite was Lodge 49. That was
Lodge 49. Halt and Catch Fire. And Hell on Wheels. Like, you had some amazing...
Oh, Deadwood.
Deadwood was HBO.
Oh, Deadwood was HBO.
Deadwood was HBO.
Hell
so for
AMC,
for AMC, you had 7, relatively within the same generation of television, 7 pretty damn good shows running.
Yeah.
And where are they all now? Well, some have successfully concluded. Some have successfully concluded, thank God.
Yeah.
But the rest, not so much.
They hitched their wagon to the Walking Dead extended universe.
They sure did. Cow. And what a terrible decision that was.
Yeah, Prestige TV. Kind of like how HBO had Oz, Sopranos, then Carnival, then Boardwalk Empire. God, now, what does HBO produce nowadays? I forgot Game of Thrones after. But
but I mean, like, it's the same thing with cultural relevance. Is that prestige television entirely depends on your ability to conclude it.
Yeah.
And why is the Sopranos is, I know it has an infamous conclusion, but I mean, like, the Sopranos still ends on a relatively high note for TV, right? Yeah. Like, you can say whatever you want about
6 Feet Under. That had a great ending.
6 Feet Under has a great ending. Like, the television that exists today, you can't go out on a great note because we demand more, or there's the studio pressure to demand more, the streaming service, the lore, and everything becomes an industry. This is why, like, again, you have to rely on word of mouth, because we create intermediaries, because you would have The Walking Dead, and then you would have the The Walking Dead show right after, and then you'd have all the lore guys on YouTube to explain the differences between the comics and the TV show, and you still have that today now with Invincible. Congratulations, Robert Kirkman, you're a fucking billionaire for your shit. I mean, like, good for you. It's an American success story, but also, like, thank you for ruining, I guess, like, comic book shit for a while. in a way that Marvel has thankfully died in a lot of respects.
Well, I
So
thought Ethan Van Sciver was going to save comic books forever, but that didn't work out.
Oh, I suddenly feel old.
But Nick Arcana told me that Ethan Van Sciver is going to save comic books.
Oh my
so
God.
Anyway, speaking of good content, though, and please need those super chats. I've been starving for some super chats all this time. Let's go on to the first half of Haibane Renmei. Is that how you pronounce it, Renmei?
Haibane Renmei.
Haibane Renmei?
Something like that.
I truly, you know what's funny? I had a comment in my Telegram channel. He's like, I wonder, as Prude is an ortho bro, I wonder how he feels about this like overtly Catholic show. But I think like you could say
I don't think it's very Catholic.
No, me either. I think
it's pretty damn Buddhist.
It is, but there's some Christian elements.
There's some Christian imagery and concepts, but there's a lot of Buddhism here as well.
A lot of Buddhism, yes.
A lot of Buddhism. So
can we hit the go?
I actually so for the show itself, I liked it, and I really liked the soundtrack. The music was really good.
It was great.
But so I guess the first half, I guess. I don't know. I rewatched it all today in preparation for tonight. So I think we had someone in who I don't remember which group chat it was in. I think it was Pat's chat when it was like millennials when they find like a Lane clone. And I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Made in 2005. Yeah,
made in 2000. All this came out in 2002. The literal translation, Gray Feather Federation, or the Habanes of Old Home, which apparently is like an unfinished manga series. But like, I don't know, I enjoyed the TV show. I hate the fact that every time we reviewed an anime on this damn show, I've enjoyed it because I'm not much of an anime guy. But again, this goes back to word of mouth. If someone tells me that it's good and worth my time, I will give it a shot. And thank you to the gentleman whose screen name I don't know, but I don't want to use your real name either. But thank you nonetheless for recommending it to us and paying us for it. That's why we're here. I thoroughly enjoyed this little 13 episode series.
And that's your review. Let's go to Super... No, I'm kidding. I really, really enjoyed it. I really liked it. The art style had its moments. I think that Lane is more sensuous from an artistic perspective.
I think Lane had more money.
Lane had way more money. Yeah, Lane had way more money. But also, Lane had a very, like, contrasting no-ton, as they call in Japan, no-ton, very heavy light and dark, opposed to each other. Whereas Haibane sort of, like, was in that, like, early to mid-2000s range of anime. Like, it was still cool, but you could tell, like, they were sort of, like, jet-lagged from the 1990s. For example, Hijami no Ippo was also like that. Although I think, like, as a boxing manga or a boxing shonen, Hijami no Ippo is, like, had that early 2000s coolness to it, Like, the soundtrack, it was incredible. But this one, people criticized it for being a bit slow, which it was a bit slow. It could have gotten...
Oh, man. The first 6 episodes don't give you much to work with until... like, I think it's like the end of episode 6, beginning of episode 7. Like, this is a slow burn. Which kind of makes you want this to... Like, the first 6 episodes are interesting in the sense that, like, oh, this is kind of a neat slice of life world that allegedly these, like, angels exist. But also, like... it kind of makes it very clear towards the end of the show. It's like, oh, this is kind of depressing because I think I have a pretty good clue of how these angels became to be. So yeah.
Well, what do you think? You think they're fallen angels?
No, I think they're products of suicide.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, okay, this show is over 20 years old. Spoilers, everybody. But like towards the end, when like our main protagonist saves her friend from this like sense of damnation or the spirit, and it comes on like a moving train. Yeah, and it's just like, that seems a little self-redaction. And of course, our main character opens up this whole
Raka, yeah.
Raka, which I feel I really don't want to say the name. And my weird reason for not wanting to say her name is because like there's an untranslated word in the Sermon on the Mount where Christ says, if you ever like curse someone and say like Raka, and I'm like, it feels kind of intentional. I'm not too sure if that's
feels very intentional, actually.
Yeah, so I'm like, I kind of don't like the name. So I will simply just say our protagonist, who is the young girl who is found in a cocoon, born, has wings, gets a halo. Like very kind of default, like person's mental image of what an angel looks like. Although you got like 9 of them. And they all live in this
don't mention it's not the same without Coach Kino interrupting the lane stream. Oh man.
But like
no, but I think okay, so they're born in these sort of angelic, or should I say Edenic, like what is your face? Dream state, like what is your face before you're born? Yeah, also Raka can mean fool or empty-headedness. So there you go.
Oh, those who say you fool, right? Like they'll receive judgment. But okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this instance, it means what was it? Falling down. You know, the one who falls, because that's how because she remembers her dream. The show opens with a dream of this girl falling headfirst into what? There's a crow with her, which plays a huge role. Also, like, I hate to do the whole like soy jacking. I'm noticing things, but like, boy, oh boy, I don't know if this has been cited in interviews with the From Software people, but like, holy shit, if there are not like a boatload of things that I feel like this is where the Dark Souls people got shit from, like your wells. Your crows being these messengers of things or to bring you to something.
Even Game of Thrones, R.R. Martin wrote that. I mean, it's from the ancient world as well.
Well, yeah. But I mean, like, I feel like Martin's greatest influence on like the Elden Ring was just the incest. I can't really find anything that's distinctly Martin. I'm just like, there's a more coherent world and storyline out of all of the games that FromSoft's ever made. Like, R.R. Martin's influence, I guess, potentially. Things are mapped out very distinctly in that game, and there's a boatload of, like, androgyny and incest. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I see George R.R. Martin's, like, grubby, disgusting, masturbatory hands all over this product, but, like...
when he wasn't dodging the draft, he was writing about that.
So. Oh, of course. Did
he go to Canada?
Like a good liberal, probably. I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
George R.R. Martin.
There were some Canadians that actually did fight in Vietnam who had relatives in the States.
But except he wasn't a draft dodger. He was apparently he was granted conscientious.
Like Quakers.
Yeah. The draft board reasoning that being branded a coward for life would be enough punishment for not serving. Well, boy, oh boy, the American public opinion on Vietnam nowadays, good Lord.
But no, but so they're born through these cosmic eggs that then hatch, and they're assigned randomly throughout this land. But they discover that this town is totally, completely isolated from the rest of the world. They know nothing about the world outside, even to where the books then there's these emissaries that trade and go in between their town and the outside world. But even the literature and the books in the library that they get from the outside barely mentions the outside world. So it also kind of like with Lane, kind of like with Girls Last what's it called, the army anime Girls Last Mission. I actually watched all of that.
I have not.
Girls Last Tour. It's like it's implied that maybe they live in some kind of post-apocalyptic world, or they live in literally another world that is, or the aether that's in between. And so I think what's very interesting having this come out in the early to mid 2000s is that it preempts the current, I would say, and I think apparently Zoomers really like this as well, this anime. It preempts the obsession with space, and with space that is wholly cut off from the facticity of the world, of the living world that we know in the Heideggerian sense of the world as invoking culture, history, so forth. A land without history, except for the history within the town of these guardians that go travel back and forth. And then eventually Raka becomes, she has to clean these divine sigils of this like angel dust or whatever. But you're not really given, it's a very insular experience. You're not given any, like, it kind of looks like maybe like 15th or 16th century France, but you're not given very many.
But there's also
details.
electricity.
There's also electricity, yeah.
Yeah, like you're given a world out of time. Like, I mean,
it's kind of like
no
JoJo, where it's like it's like England in the 18th century, but they also have a like
yeah, like yeah. They things are electrical, but also there's everything is more or less analog or mechanical, and things are very like there are all these rules that exist. The angels don't have money, so they have to work for whatever they get, but everything has to be thrifted. Like, it's an interesting world that you're given very little information on, in the sense that, like, even where there's a day where Raka spends a day with her friend at the library working, and she comes across a very old book that's trying to give like the religious beginnings of the world, but it's so old and faded, even worse, the audience given as much information as Raka does, which is close to nothing other than like God existed and God brought forth the light, created the world, created human beings, but he created these angels first, but the angels seem to not be perfect. So they live in their own little world. But even then, that's partially
not
written.
Christian eschatology now. Not
no. There's a limbo to it, but it's also kind of this there's okay, so it's like Touched by an Angel, where everyone's like trying to fix their shit before they can quote unquote move on. That's what it is. Like,
or like Dead Like Me. Remember Dead Like Me?
Yes,
that was great. I love Dead Like Me. Me and my parents watched that. Yeah, but what were you saying?
And so like that's a big part of this, is that like there's sin, and there's the concept of being a sinner,
and
but also
sin as well,
and there's an original sin concept to it, but also not really. And then you have sort of these like paradoxical things where one of these like communicators, clerical figures, is like, well, if you can acknowledge your own sin, therefore you have committed no sin, which makes no sense, because if I can acknowledge my own sins, that doesn't stop me from being a sinner. It just makes me self-cognizant of the world. Yeah, it's kind of almost tautological in a sense, but so like the world is kind of this jumbled, confused mess, like where we're given set rules, but the first 6 episodes of the show are Raka coming into the world and understanding the rules and regulations in which she now lives in, because she's not allowed to leave the town, even if her family or whoever she was, because she's like a young girl. She's probably like at best 12 years old. I don't know how old she is in the show.
It's like Pure Land Buddhism. It's like a weird mix of Christianity and Buddhism.
There's Christian iconography and language that's being used, but it's not explicitly like there's not a redeemer. There's no salvation is pursued by one's own reconciling. It's not through communion. It's not through it's works based in the sense that like we're always judged by what we do and how we act in our faith, but that's a big part of the show, is the works that we do to try and save others. And I mean, like, obviously we're regardless, I mean most belief systems, I think,
that's your dharma.
There's your dharma, there's your we will be judged for what we've done on this life type deal. But it leaves us, it's a strange world, because it's like also there's older, like senior member, like you get to grow up, in this world, but also a time.
You're an angel, though.
You're an angel,
you have
though.
To go.
And you're an angel that smokes cigarettes. But you also have to go, and it's a world in which it's borrowing a lot from both. There's some Christianity to it, but also like the angels are they're basically second-class citizens,
Yeah. I was going to say that it's very interesting how they fit. And again, this is like weirdo theory, so Giorgio Agamben legal theory or legal philosophy, where the angels are untouchable. They become the Muslim. They cannot use money. They cannot exchange commerce. They are looked at as the protector, but yet in the zone outside of the town, in this old monastery, or this one group is in an old abandoned factory. So you have this reality of sacredness that means something that is untouchable, something that is not in common use or not engaged in ordinary machinations of society. And so now that the angels themselves are the sacred object, the way that the Homo sacer is a sacred object in a weird way, because they instantiate the happenings of that society, the very functioning of that civilization is determined by the activity of certain people that can cross over into the nowhere land of the outside. So the angels themselves, they are sacred, they are protected, but they are the Homo sacer. They are untouchable. They cannot exchange money. They are outside of the bounds of the law. And so I thought that was incredibly interesting how an object, or rather a person of sacredness, is also viewed with a weird form of suspicion and untouchableness. And so I think like that is very close to what mystics and shamans and other holy figures of the ancient world were than our conception of, say, a priest or a monk or whoever being integrated into the social. Because in India and in China and Japan, you still have this reality where a monk is not to be dealt with. A monk is untouchable. A monk cannot have money. A sadhu can go off into the forest and be disconnected from the greater society. And so I think that was very interesting, because to us, like as Christians, we did have this, but in the Western world, we kind of don't, because the thing is with the sort of like heliospheric picture model of Christendom is that heavenly authority was also vastly integrated into corporeal and worldly authority, to where priests and nuns vastly controlled huge swaths of the social order, whether it be hospitals, education, social welfare, you name it. Whereas still in the East, there are these zones, and of course, like monks have done this as well. I mean, for example, in Tibet is a monarchical, theistic, theocratic society, but they still have spaces where the Muslim of a religious order, the monk, the sadhu, and in this case, an angel, goes off away from the social, and they cannot integrate into the social. And currency is a powerful symbol of that. So to me, I thought that was incredible inversion. Now, we do have Christian monks, you do have monasteries. The Orthodox have, what's it called? The very, very famous monastery, Mount Athos.
Mount Athos, and it's an island in Greece where it's a bunch of monasteries. But yeah,
the only time women were allowed in was during World War II, to as a charity thing, to shelter people from the bombing, right? I thought that was kind of like a wholesome Chungus moment where Mount Athos, they had both like Germans and like British and Americans staying there, like receiving healthcare. I don't know, that's kind of like a wholesome Chungus thing, but I thought that was a very interesting aspect of it, that these Haibane cannot have possessions or have money. They literally just have a few clothes.
Everything is place used. Yeah, yes, like nothing is new, and that you have to work, and that you're treated, I guess, I don't want to say poorly, because even then, in all the places where we see everyone work, it's not done poorly. Yeah. But also, like, on the face of things, these sort of what we would call angelic looking creatures, they're young, they're children. Mm-hmm. You can grow up, and eventually your time will come when you're called to either the great beyond, or to be called off to some heaven, or to say that like this cycle and the cycle of existence will come to an end, and you will either be reincarnated, or you will be taken to the next level of existence, or move on to the next part of samsara. Like there's all that that's included. And so like you're left looking at where like on the faith. And it's funny too, because like there is a Christian cross in this world. Like you notice it when she's walking through town, there's a church, but it's a blink and you'll miss it type deal, because religion is not really there at all, because this town is walled off. There's not really anything. The humans themselves can't leave the town. It's only these clerical classes, the communicators, that can go out into the outside world beyond the walls and do trade and bring things back and to do things like that. And they have like they have a New Year's ritual and special, but at that
It's
point,
like a May Day parade.
yeah. Well, not even that. It's just like it's like New Year's Day. There's fireworks but you're not supposed to say anything. You're supposed to just ring your bell, because it's an experience that are beyond. We're going all over the show, but I mean, I'm left just looking at it for this world where I'm like, okay, on one hand, I'm like, I see a whole bunch of game references that I'm familiar with, the crows bringing things, wells, a world in which you've forgotten where you came from or your memory, and that eventually you are supposed to move on or to be elevated to this next level. But also everyone kind of looks at you like you're this strange oddity. You're you're a Haibane or whatever, and you're not human. You are an other. You're tarnished. You're undead. You're not fully human anymore.
You have the mark of Cain. Yeah.
And if obviously you have wings, you have this little glowing halo, and it's just proof of who you are, and that eventually this will all be left behind because when you feel ready to move on, or that you've either fixed whatever problem that's associated with your own internal conscience or your record of sins or whatever, once that's been reconciled and you have found peace or enlightenment or forgiveness, then you're gone. And of course it's like death, so even the angels experience death, which is a very strange thing to consider. And it gives you the sense of a child. And I mean, literal children, because they're all newborns. They're all children in the sense. Doesn't matter how old they are.
Well, except for what's her name? Riki?
Yeah, Riki, the oldest. But I mean, she grew up, and she's been there for like what, 5, 6, 7 years. And
we'll get there in the next episode.
Yeah. But like, they're born and then they're brought into this world, and it doesn't matter what age they are. Like they'll grow up into it, and it's like it's strange because some are very young children, some appear to be older. She was born as her own self, which has its own like special connotation for why she was born or how she was born, as a sinner potentially. And I liked it. That's really all I there's so much I want to get into with it, but I mean, I know we said we were going to do this for 2 parts because the gentleman who told us to do this gave us a lot, and I feel like we should give it the best old college try. But the world itself is a very interesting one, but it's a microcosm. Like, this is one of the few TV shows, miniseries, whatever you want to call it, anime or otherwise, where I'm like, actually, this is pretty succinctly written. It's a very slow burn the first half, but like, man, oh man, does it pick up the pace real quick.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't feel rushed.
They also, like, I was kind of wrong in the sense that they actually do engage with the town. They have to have jobs, but their jobs is purely like, I guess it's like a divine form of like make work. Like, just, you have to benefit the town, you have to help them, you have to have you have your little job, but you're given this notebook where it's exchanged for currency, but you can't buy anything new, and you can't have any indulgence of any kind except for like maybe a puff pastry here and there at the festival time. But what's very interesting, again, I think like you have to realize that this is a Japanese person trying to interpret or interpolate Christian themes. And so it's like there's going to be some kind of like mistranslation there, sort of like how Daisetsu Suzuki, when he came over to America in the 40s and 50s to spread the gospel of Zen Buddhism, it's like he knew he was playing to a Christian audience. He was smart enough to know that. And he's like, okay, so I have to kind of like butcher it just a little bit to like make these like, people that have a life world based upon Christianity understanding a concept that is, well, like, let's be real, wholly alien to especially people in the 40s and 50s. Which is why I think like Zen Buddhism and Hare Krishna, I actually went to a Hare Krishna meeting a few weeks ago with my girlfriend. It was a very interesting experience. I actually quite enjoyed it. But it's like, I think that's why like those two things took off in the West, as opposed to things like the Chinmaya mission or Hinduism as a whole. I think even though you could say Hinduism is more metaphysical in that sense than Buddhism. Well, I mean, Hare Krishna in a lot of ways has a lot of parallels to Christianity, but like in terms of like Vedanta, why it didn't take off in the West, I think there's got to be a reason there why Zen Buddhism and Hare Krishna took off, but Vedanta didn't. Like, to which I also include Chinmaya. So it's like, maybe it's because like it's right place, right time. Like certain mystics that came over, like Chögyam Trungpa or Osho or Prapananda, like, you know, like Hare Krishna. It's like, I guess maybe they just like rode the waves of California and New York, and it's like other ones just didn't for whatever reason. But no, but I think like, yeah, so you have to keep in mind that this is a Japanese person ensconced in their depictions of Shintoism and Buddhism, trying to take Christian themes to an anime, which I think is can create some very interesting cross-cultural threads. So, you know, the fact that the angels are in a sense fallen, but also the way they treat transubstantiation of moving on is something that's very mournful. It's not something to celebrate. They're losing a friend. For example, Ku, which I don't know, it's very funny. I was thinking of the Death in June song, Ku Ku Ku. Ku is the youngest one, but she's not like a child, but the youngest one of the friend group. But then all of a sudden one day she goes to the beyond. And it's like this big ceremony. And you can't, and for example, the Bonnie, they cannot touch the wall or their memories will be wiped and they'll never be able to cross over. Or they have to pay some kind of like ritualistic price for touching the wall that separates the town to the outside world, right? So it's like Ku is this, I wouldn't say like exactly a Christ-like figure, because you could see the main protagonist is kind of like a Christ-like figure, but like Ku is that symbol of the child being sacrificed in a weird way by moving on quicker than anybody, as the example of purity and angelic divinity that is then something that they mourn because they're losing.
It's child. I mean, Ku is like childlike innocence, and I mean,
yes,
and Ku makes it very clear to our protagonist that, and this is the rising action for the entire like, I guess main conflict of the show, or like the pursuit of salvation,
yes.
is like Ku tells Raka like, you know, me being with you these last couple of days has been so lovely. I feel like inside of me there has been this cup of water that has been slowly filling up, and now I feel it out. I feel like I'm full, and it's time. And so she goes out into the western woods, and then we see this big flash of light, and she's gone.
Yeah. But she accepts that, though. She accepts it. Whereas the other ones, they're like struggling. They're like attached to their their karma, right? They haven't received proper dharma. Because you have to realize that in Buddhism, especially in Mahayana Buddhism, it's like they have the metaphor of the raft. Like,
yes, and that's in the show too.
Yeah, exactly. The dharma is the raft that gets you over to the other side of stepping off the wheel of life, death, rebirth, of stepping out of samsara. But once you've achieved that, you don't carry the raft. I mean, okay, I know that travelers, for example, here in Canada, they've carried the raft with them. But metaphorically, you don't carry the raft with you. You leave it on the shore. So there is a time in which dharma ceases to exist for you. I remember being in grad school. I remember in these like classes for Vedanta and Buddhism, people would ask the question like, well, does that mean you could do whatever you want? Does that mean you don't like follow like a moral dictate? Because again, this is like our consciousness of like the Western world, right?
Yeah.
And I remember my professor was like, well, it doesn't really matter because like someone who's achieved enlightenment, they don't have a need to like commit crimes or whatever, because they've achieved, you know, it's like, but it's just that dharma ceases to be a reality for them. Now, in reality, and this is what Joseph Campbell warned people about, there are a lot of people who claim to have achieved dharma that have done absolutely terrible things, right? There's been Buddhist monks that have done all sorts of atrocities and war crimes and so forth. Even Chögyam Trungpa, he like loved to hit the bottle, and he got a little touchy-feely with certain students, practitioners of the female variety when he was drunk. So it's like, you know, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But I think, but as a whole, though, if you have achieved this thing where dharma ceases to have a working upon you, it's like, you know, you don't have a need for crime or pettiness or whatever. I mean, you could say that maybe that theory isn't exactly sound, but I mean, for argument's sake, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're angels that still. It's very weird because in this series, like these angels, they still possess avarice and petty jealousy and
well, they're
clinging to
human.
mortality.
They're still human.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, they're just human, which is why the show. And it's funny too, like if you go to the Wikipedia page for the show, it'll tell you like the show is heavily eschatological. And I'm like, I don't really think that it's eschatological. It's focused on some kind of it's not about the end time. It's not about the end times. It's more about soteriology. If anything, it's about salvation and how to achieve some semblance of being salvific. There's no deification in the sense that I'm to become like a part of God. Like there's no what we would call theosis or sanctification, but other than like if I can do these things
or divine grace, even there's no.
Well, I mean, there's a sense that it's
more
like
personal grace.
There's a personal grace, and there's like a checkbook balancing here, where if we do the right things for others as we should, right? There's I mean, even in like traditional Buddhism, there is that self-sacrificial altruism. That if we do things for others, this moves us closer to the path. Yeah. And the path here is still very vague, other than to reconcile ourselves with whatever sins that we have committed, I guess, in the past life. And that's why I really do think that in some semblance of all this, this is about, I do really think that our so-called angelic characters are either are products of suicide, because she's falling,
sunsetting,
we're far enough in the show. I think it's okay. I'm not advocating that any of you do anything stupid. You have so many reasons to live for, and I would really hate for you to end things prematurely, and then you're forced to deal with the dread judgment seat. That's terrible. I don't want that to happen to you. So please, there's so many reasons for you to live. Just think about all the people that you would be making happy if you did that. I hate to sound like I hate to sound like a lefty, but spite is a powerful motivator.
Yeah, I just realized he changed his name to Sex Freakman.
Oh, it's so good.
That's so great.
I've noticed that on other shows. He comments a lot on when Dimes and I do you even read Sex Freakman. What a great username. What a name. What a great guy. Sex Freakman. He's the only 4-hour-long podcast on sex I ever listened to. Thank you so much for teaching about friction and fluid dynamics at MIT. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Big fan.
Well, it's pretty Buddhist, isn't it? You don't unify with the divine by leaving behind what defines you. Yeah, no, true.
Yeah.
I mean, in Buddhism, what is there to unify with, really?
Other than escape?
With the theory of Shunyata, right? With mutual origination, it's not like there is. I shouldn't say that, because there is some like I mentioned, Pure Land. Pure Land gets pretty metaphysical, but as a whole, I mean, and Vajrayana has a lot of mystical elements that can be perceived as almost being metaphysical. But as a whole, though, Orthodox Buddhism doesn't have that same prior of there is a Godhead to like for example in Vedanta, where there is a Godhead, Nirguna Brahman, Saguna Brahman. You are participatory, or rather, you are a part of that Godhead. You are a part of that dictates the cycle of all that is and all that ever was. Whereas in Buddhism, that is very vastly more complicated. And in a lot of ways, if you, for example, read the Pali Canon, the question of origination in terms of a creator, that's left aparatic by the Buddha, by Gautama Buddha, almost purposefully left aparatic. And you will have Buddhists debating back and forth on this question, and some of them are more friendly to Christianity than others. I mean, yeah, even in Western paganism, you have the debate over. Well, no, I shouldn't say that, because a lot of Western paganism has very, very specific and succinct creation stories. So, yeah. So, but some of them don't. So, but as a whole, though, they have very specific creation stories.
Yeah.
But Buddhism does not. But so what about did you appreciate the slice of life element of it? It seems that they're these cute little, angels going about their day, but then they have this like they intersplice it with darkness. Like even getting your angel wings is an incredibly painful process. They
Oh yeah,
shoot
you get
out
that
of
in the
your
first
back.
episode where
Yeah.
and I'm there's that scene, I think it's in like the third X-Men movie or whatever, where like the kid
Yeah.
is trying to like stop having the wings from growing because he doesn't want to be a mutant. But like
Yeah.
it's and I'm like, oh damn, that sucks. Like, yeah, you're gonna get a fever. This is gonna hurt. We'll talk in the morning and bite down on this before you really hurt yourself. And I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, that's kind of brutal for the first episode. No, I mean it. And I'm terrified to say this because I feel like it would be like I'm on the precipice of this rabbit hole I don't want to go down on. But like, is it bad that I liked the slice of life anime stuff? Maybe. Is it bad that I liked that? Probably. Does it mean that I might have a problem on my hands? Probably.
Oh, man.
But do I watch it? Do I have time to watch TV? No, I don't. So I doubt that I'll be watching any slice of life anime anytime soon. So I probably don't have to worry about that so much. But
What's
I
a good
enjoyed
slice
it.
of life anime, guys? Like, drop your favorite
Yeah.
slice of life.
Let's go let's do the one shot thesis on Prude one more time. What terrible what slice of
My
life
friend
anime can you
Hero,
throw?
my friend Hero, he loves the hiking one where they just eat and hike. What's it called? Something Yuri Camp, where it's like they camp and they eat delicious food, and that's it. I remember I watched the first 2 episodes. I'm like, okay, Hero. So they just camp and they eat food, the delicious food, and that's it. It's like, yep, every episode they camp, eat delicious food. That's it. It's like,
Sounds like a nice time.
yeah, I'm a Zinga
I've been hiking a lot lately.
Oh yeah,
which has been I've been really enjoying it. It's been a lot of good time, But I don't know. Like at the end of the day, like what's the word I'm looking for out of all this stuff is that even in the slice of life, like you get to understand how these people are treated and how they're looked at, which is like particularly interesting in its own right. Like, oh, okay, like we're now looking at a world where like everyone just treats it as like a thing that exists. Like the people have their the religiosity to it or the spirituality to it is only really within the world of the angels. Really, the regular human beings give no fucks. They're just like, well, that's what the legend says, and well, this is how it's always been. So you
like
might as well
NPCs,
just stick to it. They're like, yeah, whatever. So that's just sort of how it is, which is fine. Okay. So like I think that it's all right to deal with in that regard. But I like the little slice of life stuff. I was a fan. It's rare. There's an innocence to it, which is like, and I feel like by saying that, I've already like this is going to get totally clipped and used out of context. I'm so
well, that's why people love anime. There is an innocence.
There is an innocence to it, and that's why I get
not
it.
to say you should go too far with that, but
heavens, no, heavens! I know what that looks like on the timeline, and that's a one shot thesis that no one really wants to talk about.
I love a lot of the younger anime Austrian painter fans. They love K-On! That's like the cute girl. What are they in high school? I've never watched K-On!
I know my youngest brother is a big fan of the of like sports slice of life anime.
Oh, has he watched Hijami no Ippo?
I'm pretty sure. I'd have to ask him.
That's a great one.
But
I love that
like
one.
he was a big runner in high school and college, and now he's
they got running animes,
and so like he's a big now he works in research, and he's quite a like he got all of his hard science degrees. The dude's set for life, which I mean, good for him. But like he
listen, Hazel, listen. Solion said she was 28 years old. Okay.
I'm not opening that can of worms.
It's just not.
I'm not because I don't think you want my opinion to be said out loud on any of that stuff. But
all right. But your brother, he was a runner in high school.
Actually, X number of years old is makes me just I don't want to associate myself with that shit at all.
Well, let's move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a runner, so he likes sports animes.
He did when he was younger.
They had that one. Didn't they have like tennis? That's pretty. It's like a pretty big theme in Japan. They have tennis animes. They have like this really.
They've
big
got a
one.
little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of interesting in that regard. Like I have I think the closest thing to what I would say, like of anything I've recently watched is, and again, it's only because I'm recommended by IRL friends, and if he's listening to this, and if not, I'm going to give him so much shit because I'll just tell him in person when I see him at church this Sunday. You're going to be like, "Hey, buddy, the last thing animated that I watched prior to this show has been on YouTube, and I've yet to watch it. I know it just came out, but like I actually enjoyed Punch Punch Forever. I know that's probably going to get me indicted in some circles. Don't care. I enjoyed it, and I hate the fact that my law school friend is like, this is so good, and I'm like, I hate the fact I'm enjoying this, and the fact that you're like he's like a
real
younger
otakus think it's like
he's a younger, fatter version of me, and it terrifies me because it's like I'm seeing a different version of myself, like an alternate universe pathway, and I'm both kind of happy.
A prude.
I'm both really happy for him, but at the same time, like I'm terrified because I'm like, oh man, that could have been me, and I don't know how I feel about that. But maybe that's why he and I get along so well. But he is a good friend, so I say that with love. You know who you are. I'm not going to say your name. It's funny overall.
Well,
but I don't know.
The NHK, they say that's a good one.
Well, someone replied to your tweet about that, saying I should watch NHK. And I'm not going to go Google what the hell that stands for or what it's about. And we'll go from there. Welcome to the NHK. And it is a social recluse who gets aid from a strange girl. That sounds like a
that's like a what's anime?
No.
That's not narrowing it down.
No.
What was the recent anime that had a finale that people were freaking out because the girl like totally just like friend zoned the guy and people were like bawling their eyes out? What was that anime recently?
I don't know.
It went like super viral. I don't know. It was just like. They say that anime does have an equivalent of slop, like in the West with Western cartoons.
I'm sure it does, and I'm sure that it filters a lot of people. I'm not really particularly surprised by that at all whatsoever. It's just, I get that.
Buy a girlfriend. Yeah,
buy a girlfriend. Wow, I didn't know.
Sounds like Nora.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I forgot. Anora, the most right-wing movie ever made.
Isn't it just about a stripper?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got memed into watching it because of the Royal Serif posting that one clip over and over and over again. It was all right, but like, did it deserve like?
Isn't it just a classic like woman becomes a whore and makes like terrible decisions that she regrets?
Pretty Woman was like miles better than Nora. If you want to talk about,
was it Mitch Hedberg or was it someone else who did the old joke that like all girls want to feel like Julia Roberts from Pretty Woman until you bring a prostitute to your birthday party? I don't know if that was Mitch or not, but that joke has been ingrained in my head for a long time. I've only seen Pretty Woman once. And I know damn well that I'd piss a lot of people off if I brought a prostitute to my birthday party. I get in a lot of trouble real quick.
No, but like, is that not indicative of like how bad things are where the criteria for like quote unquote right? I ranted about this last Content Minded, but like, is that the criteria that we're going with? A movie that's not explicitly woke is ergo right wing. It's like okay, Anora was all right, like there, but at the end of the day, was there any redemption whatsoever? Was there like a base trad right wing message?
No.
I mean, she regretted it to an extent, but it's like no, she just goes back to her life.
Woman makes regrets. News that like, but okay, here's the thing about all these shows where they're like, it's so right wing. I'm sorry, it's right wing if the woman ever holds herself accountable, and that's how you know it's fiction because the woman will hold herself accountable. Say it with me: right wing fiction is female accountability. There you go.
But you know where there's tons of female accountability in animes. Unironically, that's why the right wing Zoomer loves anime. You know,
bone chilling even.
What Donald Trump gaming? It's my vibe shift. No, exactly. Like, I mean,
my vibe shift where like what was that article? It was in
Yeah.
The Economist or whatever, where it was like the bankers are like, we love the vibe shift, we can say retard and faggot again, and it's like, dude, the vibe shift of when bankers are saying this, I'm sorry, I don't want to be a part of any vibe shift where the bankers feel comfortable again. Like, I really don't want that. And you can call me left wing or whatever, but like, I'm sorry, and I've said it before, I've said it since the election. The vibe shift to me is just code for regulatory capture. And that my position on that will not change as long as I live. So
you'll get your little transgression as a treat.
Yeah, I get my little edgy, I get my little retired edgelord name tag as a treat when I'm old.
I put so many work in the trenches, and now
I can get my meme war veteran discount at Denny's if that's what I get in the long run.
You get a pizza party as they kick you out.
I get a pizza party as they kick me out for canceling me when I say that oxygen should be free or something. Fuck if I know. Like, it, I can't wait. And I feel like this is the terrifying thing is that like I've become so numb or so, I don't even want to say nihilistic because I'm not a nihilist, but like I'm so comfortably numb with how things have been going that I'm like, they'll probably call me a lefty in 5 years at this rate. Like, I don't know. But that also worries me because if I'm called a lefty in 5 years, that makes me wonder what the fuck my priors were to begin with. But like, I feel like I'll just be old and I'll have like the salt and pepper, not really. Yeah, I'll just have like the gray sideburns in like 5 years or so, or even when I'm like 10 years from now.
Or maybe political 40. Categories when...
Or maybe political categories will all just be busted and fucked. Who knows? But like,
it'll become meaningless.
I'll just be like gray on my sides as like the Reaper slowly takes away the top of my head, and I'll have to fly to Istanbul. But like when that day comes, I'm just gonna be like, what was I doing? What was this all for? Was it all for the fact that I could get away with saying the gamer word at Denny's and I'd get a 5% discount? Was it worth the fact that like they look at me and realize maybe it's okay that I can carry my gun around?
You can say gamer words while you land on the beaches of Combe, the USS Bedford Forest, and it's like you get your level. Blackwater will be there.
Yeah, like I'll get my, I'll be typing out the slurs, and then my phone will explode because I bought an Eric Prince phone because that was the only option available.
They can have Trump phones now.
Yeah, I'll get a.
Remember Obama on my Obama phone?
Well, because we had government programs to provide. We still do. We still provide handouts and subsidies for cell phones. Yeah, the Obama phone is still real. We just call it government phone now because the polemic against Barack Obama has ended away. Like it was really funny. I watched I did a piece in the Old Glory Club talking about like 10 years of Trump coming down the escalator.
I saw that. Yeah.
Which I mean, like I wasn't particularly positive. I wasn't negative either. I think Trump has been a fundamentally net positive just for the sake of him being the true accelerationist candidate, in the sense that like racial identitarianism is now mainstreamed for everybody, and that it's
really inescapable.
It's inescapable. It's an inescapable. I hate to say this, but like, wow, Trump has been kind of a Moldbugian formalist, where everyone has formally announced that they hate white people and that America should die. Like, wow, 2007, you are reader heads. Like, I hope you're happy with what you've gotten so far. Sorry, Curtis, but like, it's this strange world wherein I look at everything like this. Watching this anime from fucking 2002, it's just like, oh, this is a nice peaceful reprieve from the world, and like I get the grug brain desire to run away and to not participate, but at the same time it's like, well, what's the point? Like, it's still gonna come for you, and like you either can participate in the system and enjoy the friends you make along the way, yourself included, Gio. You are a good friend, and it's just like I don't know.
What I was going to say, Prude, I was going to say, though, about this right-wing art thing is that it's indicative of, like, I think the right wing having, whatever you can call the right wing, going through, I don't want to use the meme term ordeal of civility, but like a sort of like ordeal with culture as a whole. And
like
are we in a culture shock? There you perfect culture shock. In a position to change and mold culture in an overt way, as opposed to what was happening in the doldrums of the online world for a long time. And that's sort of like, for example, like, listen, I'm not going to bash him. He's done great by me. I do consider him a bit of a friend. But I watched that the Doubt Out interview with Lomez, and it was all right. It was good, but there were certain points where I think Lomez was kind of struggling, or I would have answered differently as an artist myself. And I think like the proposition that you can rely on already pre-existing superstructures of the culture industry to then sort of do a media literacy retcon on different elements of it or different products of it and say that, well, actually, this is right wing. This is the new Trumpian era of acceptance and openness to to sort of heterodox political ideologies. I think like in a few years, that's going to be left waning if the culture industry itself re-territorializes around like a pure leftist revenge fantasy of making the 2010s look like the Bush years or look like Bill Clinton's 1990s. I think like that's going to be when the Zoomers finally take over. That's going to be what happens. So I think like you have to like really be conscious of the fact that cultural creation does not happen within a vibe that lasts maybe a year or more. Cultural creation and lasting works of art take generations to produce. And I think that should be like the real message instead of doing the sort of like, let's cook the books of media literacy to say that Honora or Girls or I shouldn't say Welcome to the NHK probably is a right-wing show. But
sure.
Whatever, right? Like you can't like really cook the message of media literacy to be like, well, this pre-existing product. Now, when it came to Corbyn McCarthy, I thought Lomez was correct. There is a lot of like, maybe not overtly right-wing, but certainly grappling with the awe-inspiring forces of nature itself. Because you have to remember, in the Kantian distinction, awe and the sublime that produces awe is also something quite terrifying and outside of human conception. And I've never read Blood Meridian cover to cover. I've read pieces, but like
I recommend it.
Yeah, what is Judge Holden? He is nature in its most terrifying and awe-inspiring, in a very brutal and crazy, and literally you cannot capture it within literature, but Cormac McCarthy does a good job. Time in American history on the frontier. That it's like things that happened almost take on a sense of mysticism, because unless you were there, you can't imagine that type of lifestyle, especially to us living in 2025, right? So people in 1965 couldn't imagine that type of lifestyle, right? So I think like that's a better case. But when Lomas starts talking about Honora and Girls, and it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's like, I understand the Girls thing where it's like an accelerationist play when it comes to culture. Sure. But again, you cannot think of culture and the work of art in like mercenary political categories where it's like, oh, see, like that scene with Adam Driver's exposing things. It's like,
especially because what does the cult, like what do those media products do other than set and reinforce standards of culture? Like cultural expectations for behavior. So like, Girls is allegedly right wing, but what does Girls reinforce to anyone who's watching the show? That things like abortion is normal and if not celebrated, and that you can be this disgusting Lena Dunham piece of shit and you can fuck around and face no consequences because society is set up for you to never face consequences for your actions. Yeah. And so like the thing with this is why I think
which I guess you could say that's right wing because it's like the libs telling on themselves. But
well, sure, but like the libs were telling on themselves in Berlin in 1925, but like that doesn't mean anything because it wasn't the libs that brought it into that shit. Now was it? Like I really like the libs were telling on themselves in Weimar, Berlin. The libs were telling on themselves in San Francisco in 1985 when they were like, "Don't you fucking dare close that bathhouse." The libs have been telling on themselves forever, and they don't stop.
The left side of the aisle at the French Assembly, the libs were telling on themselves.
They were.
And they started beheading people left and right. So it's like
Kane was telling on himself. I'm not my brother's keeper.
There you go. There you go. The snake in the garden. That's the most right-wing man in existence, according to Carlsbad. The snake in the garden was the first instantiation of this 3-letter word I can't say on YouTube.
Whoa, this is the most right-wing man on the planet. Yeah, I that tweet is chef's kiss.
When Cain killed Abel, the libs were... You gotta tweet that. When Cain killed Abel, the libs were telling on themselves.
I probably will. But like that's the truth,
so
right?
good.
Like
That's
they just
amazing.
tell on
That's
themselves.
great.
And but this is the thing.
Oh.
This is the thing though about culture, and this is something that Dimes and I were talking about with Cochrane, and that you can notice
Oh yeah,
this
that's
too.
right. I was watching
But
that.
you also
Yeah.
notice this too in that fun little book that you can only buy in certain places. Sex and Culture by J.D. Irwin.
Oh
In
yeah.
that, what
Gotta
is
go to
Irwin?
Anna's archives for that one.
Yeah, have fun looking for that one. Unless you don't mind putting yourself on a list buying that book. But so anyways, I'm already on a list. I already bought the book. But like, what does J.D. Irwin tell us? J.D. Irwin tells us that it only takes 2 generations to make a new cultural standard precedent that stays for a very long time.
Incredibly long time, yeah.
That doesn't get disrupted unless it's done by force. And so,
yeah.
The same thing with Cochrane too, about like with religious instantiation, like anything that gets instituted, it takes force and it takes a couple of generations to redo. This is why like Julian actually did get very close in a lot of ways, except for his boondoggle in Jerusalem and going towards Persia.
Julian the Apostate?
Yeah, Julian the Apostate.
Yeah.
But like, because it's all within a generation or so. So what are we dealing now in 2025? Like, most Americans still overpredict how many gay people really exist in the U.S. I've heard numbers ranging, and this, of course, some of these surveys are some of them from what you want to call peak woke or whatever. Peak woke is still peaking.
30%,
but like they're like
I think
1 in 5 Americans is a homosexual or LGBTQI plus HIV
40%
positive.
of all of America's black, according
40% of America's black or whatever, and it's just like, first of all, like Tyrone,
my parents believe that. I told him, like, I remember one time there was a commercial, and my old man was doing the boomer conservative, like, there's like, there's any white people in commercials. I go, Papa, you know what the percentage of African Americans are in the United States? What, like 40%? I go, no, 13%. And it's hovered to 13% since 19.
And you only see them in cities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, in certain cities more than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
like for example, in California, there's very little.
Well, they've been ethnically cleansed by like Mexicans, but like, you know, like you might see them in Atlanta.
Atlanta's I think almost 50%.
Atlanta is like overwhelmingly black. And you're going to see them overwhelmingly in Washington, D.C. Like, you know, but like outside of some of these places, like not a lot of black people, you know, and it's just like the media instantiates this cultural standard. It's like, wow, blacks are everywhere in America. Wow. Gosh, let's not go there, you know.
There was this one Democrat Party shill. He had this tweet that went viral where he's like, there's a No Kings March in Dallas, Fort Worth, and in Atlanta, Georgia. The reddest of red states revolting against Trump, and people were like, you know that those cities within red
Dallas
states
County
are
and
Democrat.
Dallas and Tarrant County went like 40% Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
you know,
I
mean,
like almost like 60% in Atlanta, Georgia went for Kamala.
And like Atlanta was like overwhelmingly for Biden, overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris. It's just like, dude, it's red states and blue cities. That's how it's always been in America.
It's always been, always will.
And so it's just like, okay, buddy, unless you want to start glassing some of these areas, good luck with that. But like,
well, you never know, unless the right wing can take over some cities here and there.
There's some potential there, but that also means no, because that means that like the conservatives would have to do the one thing that they can't do, which is dismantle minority voting machines. Like, no, blacks don't vote, precinct captains do. Blacks don't vote, they go by the busload. Seniors don't vote. Some like minority like staffer fills out their mail-in ballot for them. Unless Republicans clamp down on this, I'm sorry, like they're not going to do that. You're not going to take over a city. That would be nice. There's like out of the top 25 metropolitan areas in the United States, only one of them has a Republican mayor. Like, come on.
Yeah, we're never going to. We have to in our lifetime. We can't recreate few.
Well, maybe, but like it would require people actually wanting to win, and I don't know a single Republican that actually wants to win or do anything. And so,
like the whole like tech right thing, I had this big rant about it on the core report. Like the whole thing with Elon Musk, it's like, okay, yeah, the tech right, but like Silicon Valley is still overwhelmingly left liberal.
Yeah, like left libertarian at best.
Yeah, at best, exactly. So it's like even Silicon Valley, which I think, like, again, I said this when this whole debacle happened, to which Elon Musk had to like apologize. Like, he made a political wager that Donald Trump can destroy quote unquote wokeness, holding back innovation, But in my opinion, I think a lot of these Silicon Valley heads, they're having sort of like buyer's remorse because they realize that maybe they could have cut deal with the libs. Certainly they'll cut deals if Gavin Newsom gets in. I mean,
Yeah.
they could work. There's infinite workarounds against the sort of quote unquote wokeness stifling innovation. But when it comes right down to it, the nativism, protectionism, and semi-traditionalism of the vast majority of people that voted for Donald Trump, that presents huge barriers to like rootless cosmopolitan Silicon Valley people that are trying to like efficiency and profit max. Because at the end of the day, in spite what like Chapo Trap House tells you, like global postmodern capital is not exactly amenable to the world of reaction and tradition, as we've known, as like as Condylis has told us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like Elon Musk, he woke up and he's like, oh man, what did I do? But these people are a bunch of bumpkins. They don't realize the beauty and glory of importing infinite H1Bs.
Yeah, like
America.
man, I'm so fucked if the left gets in power. I'm gonna go to jail. But
like,
go
to jail.
I want to go to jail.
They're gonna deal with
these
They're gonna ditty me.
that want to get rid of my Bomalians, and I'm like, no, your Bomalians are awful, and I don't want them here at all. But you're like, this big beautiful bill must die, and it's just like, I feel like I'm just. It's the same thing over and over again. I'm just
you know what? But you know, kind of like Carney and Keir Starmer in the UK or Carney over here, they'll say as a form of political vengeance that they want to get rid of, for example, the Sikhs here. But guess what? No Sikh will ever go back unless they want to go back. So you're getting the worst of both worlds. It's like... But people fall for these false political equations all the time. And I think a lot of people genuinely did believe that if Elon Musk could set a sort of like path in Silicon Valley for this emergent and nascent tech right, that we could live in more of like a, a Guillermo Fay, like archaeo-futurist society. But that's not like, again, these people have fundamentally different interests than you and me. And I think a lot of people... because he was giving us, giving MAGA rather support, a lot of people, they sort of could easily brush the contradictions under the rug. But Elon Musk did everybody in MAGA a huge favor. He showed his true colors. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
But enough about that. Go ahead, Prude, if you have any more about that. Yeah.
Well, like I said, a lot of it just feels like regulatory capture, but also just at the same time,
you talked with Oren about that, right? About
not recently. I mean, I expressed my. He and I talked briefly, I think, last week about the Elon Musk shit. But I mean, like, he and I were on the same page where it's like, well, he pulled this shit about immigrants in December. Is anyone really surprised at this point? So
yeah,
you're left kind of wondering about what you want to do with that. It's you're just kind of left frustrated. In that regard, so it's just it's annoying that it's like, oh, it's the same shit, different day. And then he was like, oh, I said some things that were too far, and I'm like, dude, you did the same thing you got in trouble for like 10 years ago when you called that like scuba diver a pedophile. Like, it's like you just put him on the Epstein list, and everyone was like, hey man, like, we know he was like on there, but we have also all these like record statements and deposition hearings where like we know that he wasn't diddling little kids as far as we know. So it's like, okay, like, cool.
I think like Trump had to tolerate Epstein because he was in a position of power. So, but I think like, didn't Trump kick him out of Mar-a-Lago or something back in the 90s? Yeah.
So it's just like, I have voted for Trump and all that jazz, but like, at the same time, I'm also keenly aware of the fact that, like, I also know that, like, hey, he's probably got skeletons in his closet and shit like that.
Oh, so, definitely. Everybody does.
It's not like I'm unfamiliar with this whole subject. And let's go from there, like, that sounds fine. And that's how it'll be. But,
Yeah.
Musk, you read like he has no political instincts. This is the thing that kills me. It's just like you got on board with the Trump train after the Butler assassination attempt, and you're still a lib. Like, and he's openly said that he's a lib, and we're like, that's okay, fine. Like, we get it, you're a libtard.
He just doesn't like the wokeness.
He just has no political instincts. It's like,
but
dude,
like, what is wokeness to him? It's like what? It's like a James Lindsay talking about wokeness. It just doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. But even then, like, oh, it's about wokeness or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, I feel like I would have, like he has energy in him. Like he knows how to fight. And I'm like, dude, I would not maybe bite the hand that can do the one thing to maybe be with the administration that can try to some degree reverse the things that have fallen upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, like the left killed your son. Maybe not jump ship with the team that, is on your side on that issue. It's just like he's very impulsive and childish where he's got shitty.
I can't believe this guy's the richest guy in the world.
The richest man in the world is a Redditor.
No, but I think what he could have done, Prude? I think this would have been saner. He could have slowly gave a bit of bromides towards Trump. He could have said that we're going to have a new free speech renaissance on Twitter for everyone. Not just the frogs, for everybody. And he could have stayed out of politics. The libs would have been angry. All those Antifa journalist losers like Jason Wilson, they were all been on his case. But when it came to the vast majority of foot soldiers on the political left, they would have been like, oh, Elon Musk, I can't believe he's getting slack in moderation, and some anime Austrian painter called me an F slur. But really, he could have just stayed quiet, and he would have achieved the goal of normalizing a lot of Trumpian or semi-right-wing talking points. But he couldn't have burned through his political, or rather his public capital, by going and venturing into politics. But I think the temptation to interfere with the U.S. government was too great with Doge. And so,
well, and I mean, even there are things about Doge that are good. Doge is a net boon in a lot of regards. The problem that Doge was always going to have was that it would be treated like fucking Newt Gingrich era,
contract with America,
with America, spending cuts in the same way that Bill Clinton created. And this is after the election in 1992, mind you. Bill Clinton gives a speech in 93 where he's like, we're going to make government efficient and we're going to cut excessive spending. And it's like, okay, what's changed in 25 years, 27 plus years? It raises some interesting questions now, doesn't it? And so you're just like, I don't know there. That kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. And
was it Clinton that said, read my lips, no new taxes?
No, that was George H.W. Bush.
Herbert Walker,
Herbert Walker.
No, but Bill Clinton had some memorable lines about the economy, though, if I recall.
Well, yeah, he famously had said in the debate, it's the economy, stupid.
No, Gavin Newsom, I swear to God, Gavin Newsom will be this weird hybrid between Bill Clinton and Obama. People thought that O'Rourke was going to be the white Obama. No, Gavin Newsom definitely.
Buttigieg is still trying to be the white Obama. They're trying so hard to make him a thing. They literally gave him a real beard. He's been doing the podcast circuit. He's been on Time magazine or whatever, talking about infrastructure or whatever. And it's
if
just
you're a Democrat and black people don't want to vote for you, it's over.
Democrats don't vote for black. Democrats don't vote for gays, and they certainly don't vote for white gays. Republicans have the same problem where they're like, we have a clearly gay black man here, but don't worry, we gave him a bimbo white wife, and that'll do it for everybody. And even the white people are like, well, what the fuck is this shit? And then the blacks are like, well, I'm definitely staying home now.
Robinson. I'm not going to mention that Robinson guy. What's his name? Mark Robinson.
No, I mean, that's an example. And then also
Lindsey Graham.
I do declare I am a faggot. It's and we must bomb Iran. But
another one. Okay, what's that? 203.
Oh shush. You'll live. Just label it as we talked about controversial topics. But I mean, Tim Scott's the most recent example. They're like, wow, Tim Scott's gotten married with a woman. We never thought we'd see that. And Trump just called him gay in an audience of thousands of millions of people, and it's just I
can't believe he got married.
It's a woman.
You know
He
what's
found a
funny?
woman. We thought that would never happen, and it's just like, yeah, we know.
You know what Lindsey Graham said today on what are they called? The Dave Clark 5 on Fox News?
Wasn't it just Fox and Friends or whatever?
Fox and Friends, yeah, the 5 or Fox and Friends. He's like, you know what? You got to get rid of Iran because you wanna China to be at heel. You want the Russians to go to heel. You got to get rid of Iran first. And it's like, there you go. That's like the neocon trifecta. The only way you could subdue Russia and China is if you go after Iran first. Even though when it comes to BRIC nations, who clearly has more power in that equation? China and Russia, not Iran. Iran's been sanctioned since the 1980s for forever, right? So it's just like, it's such a stupid equation that serves their narratives. It's just, when I heard that, I'm like, let's not talk about Iran.
So my last TV take of the night before we go to super chats. So I've been on a terrible YouTube algorithm of normie like TV show retrospectives. And one made me realize I'm in the wrong YouTube industry. I'm not making money because I'm not talking about how I Met Your Mother shit the bed with the ending. I'm not talking about the greatness that was like the perfect blend of a procedural and Sherlock Holmes that was House MD. Apparently, I'm in the wrong industry, and I'm seriously considering making a second channel just to talk about television. But at the same time, I found one. And I won't say the channel's name. I just had to find it really funny because this is a woman talking about the TV show Pretty Little Liars, a show I have never fucking seen in my life. Okay, and I'm
why would you watch this?
Because the title is what fucking killed me. Because here's the thing: the title is something along the lines of like "groomed to be groomed," and it was talking about Pretty Little Liars because. The first season's got how many relationships are between that are basically statutory rape of like a 16-year-old girl and like a 20-year-old man or whatever. Anyways, this is what kills me is I'm listening to this like mid-30s, probably millennial woman bitching about the social, moral, and broadcast standards about how much of a like all the fandom and all the shipping about all these relationships between underage girls and like mid-20s dudes, some of them being teachers and students and whatever. And I'm listening to her complain. She's like, well, this is probably a bad standard because girls were idealizing like the student-teacher relationship. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a gosh darn second here. Pretty Little Liars was written by like what, a mid-50s hag? Writing her like sexual fantasies out on television for all to watch, and she would interact with the fans in the early 2010s Twitter era of engaging with fandom. No way! You're upset because a woman was honest about her sexuality. No way! Like this was the greatest. Like I was laughing the whole, and she's being very serious about it, and she's like citing journals and studies and like media exposure therapy. And I'm thinking to myself, you're just mad because a woman got to coom on television. This is all that this is that a woman was honest about what got her off. And you're like, the social implications. And I'm like, we all know what the social implications are. You're edging yourself closer and closer to a little red pill about how women view sexuality that you're a little uncomfortable with because all of a sudden it turned into that like, isn't there somebody you forgot to ask? And it's like the mid-30s hag while the dude's like going after a younger woman. And I'm laughing at this and I find it so funny. And I told my fiance about it, and I was like, this is fucking hilarious. And she's like, well, don't you understand why it's a problem? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But like, don't you understand why this is so funny that this like older woman is upset that some other woman got to live out her fantasy on television with young people? Like she's mad because some woman got to be a degenerate and it wasn't her. And she's now in her like mid-30s and she's like, oh my God, I regret everything. And you're just like, yes, this is why this is good for me. And I'm going to take my own drag of a cigarette and be like, yeah, this was good for me too. And you're over here complaining on your little sofa chair about how awful it was to be groomed by a major hit television network show. And it's like, yeah, well, you get what you fucking deserve now, don't you? And it was just so enjoyable to listen and laugh. And I had to share this with somebody, and it might as well be you and your traumatized audience, because I watched other like videos of her, and I'm like, it's the same shtick of the millennial female school marm complaining about standards from a time in which she was able to enjoy herself.
Like, just let a hot 40 or 50-year-old girl, like 50-year-old woman, have her fantasy. Why are you so offended? Let a MILF have her freak. Okay, you know what's crazy is that wokeness, 2010s, like 2010s school marm panic, or this whole thing with the age gap. A lot of people, like, especially on the online radio,
I guarantee you there was discourse about the age gap when the show was airing.
Yeah.
I was not on Tumblr at said time, but I guarantee you it's there.
No, but what I was going to say is that even people, like, especially like the online writer, like Puas or whatever, like the Manosphere, they talk about how like a lot of like 2010s wokeness was essentially laundering like the mores of older women, or like, policing the lusts and desires of younger men, and how people talk about like the Zoomers and the hag maxing and like the safe sleazy sexuality. But I think when you really look at it, it actually like robs older women of a very integral social legitimacy, because the only way to gain like cultural and social and online cultural legitimacy as an older woman, as a woman approaching middle age, is if essentially you LARP as a younger woman with the concerns of younger women. You do not get to have your own cultural thing. You don't get to have your own vibe. You have to have the vibe of like a much younger woman. And so therefore, like, or even like, I understand the arguments, like, I'm not going to lie, you don't know my proclivities, but like, I think like, the whole thing about it is exaggerated to the extent that like that cultural paradigm benefits older women at the suppression of younger men or younger women. I think it's more of like the ideal of the girl in that one, the book, the preliminary materials, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the young girl is the eternal object of desire and of archetypal significance that older women have to launder their way into buying into, instead of flourishing into an older, more mature version of cultural legitimacy for older women. And so therefore, like, yeah, the 2010s garbage totally just destroyed the psyches of older women because they had to compete with a much younger version of themselves, even though that itself was labeled as the male gaze or whatever, or patriarchy or whatever. But it's almost like the culture industry that catered to that quote unquote wokeness was destroying that picture of the middle aged to older women in favor of like the moral panic and the sort of like school marming of younger women. It's just, it's very interesting how this like millennial woman is criticizing an old cougar for having her like titillation fantasy in a work of fiction. It's just like, that's a perfect illustration of what I'm trying to say.
Well, also, I guess just for the record, as I laugh at all this, like, let's not kid ourselves. Things like that do happen where women and men. Mm-hmm. There is the opposite of this is the miniseries Teacher with Kate Mara and what's his name. There is damage. I'm not here to negate that, obviously, clearly, but also like I just have to laugh because there's this weird like. And I mean, like Kathrine called it like 4 years ago. Like this is the sex negativity backlash that is coming from men and also like a lot of millennial women.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of Zoomers as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I don't blame them too because while we have our what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for specifically? The negativity that I think that has really emerged is because we've kind of come out of that haze of that vulgaria or that vulgar, kind of TV era where all things were possible, where it was sex, but it was also like really progressive in the sense of its messaging. House being like the perfect example of this, where like things are sexy, but they're like it's dirtbag left transgressive. And that, of course, has all died because like it's just so funny when I'm listening.
Doesn't he get with Cuddy after?
Yes, it will know because I mean, House fakes his own death and rides off with Wilson, who's dying of cancer, and like that's how the show ends. It's a weird ending. I mean, but it's all like the show jumps the shark also because some permanent consequences come in to where you kind of can't stick to the formula. But overall, like,
it was mid 2000s fedora tipping as well. That was
a lot of mid 2000s fedora tipping. Everybody lies. There is no da 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 da. The fool has said in his heart there is no God, and so it's just like, okay, cool. Well, I think it's kind of just funny to chuckle at, because like the consequences of that are people who grew up in it and lived in it that are like, oh my God, this was awful. And then you have the remaining what's ever left of the dirtbag left, and like it was funny to watch all these like Bernie style like streamer socialists on Twitter and other platforms be like, we need to bring back the dirtbag left because this is what could have saved this, and we could, and they show that like fat gay Greek guy or whatever, and it's just like, this is what could have saved us with men, and it's like, no, actually, a dude's like, no, why do if I wanted to listen to a Norwooding fat guy, I would not listen to anybody actually, because there are no Norwooding fat guys that I would listen to, and it's just like, no, you can't make the left palatable again, because the left has made one thing abundantly clear. You can't be an edgy progressive white guy, and that's dead.
Look what they did to Harry Sasson.
They canceled him for being heterosexual. Like, what are you going to do? How do we win back young men? Let them be straight. No.
No, but it was funny because in that thread,
you will settle for the 289-pound light-skinned Latina that will eat you. That is the only acceptable form of
or the 90-pound soaking wet Harry Sisson.
Those are your options. Himbo. That is what we ship in the Democratic Party. We want an emaciated 90-pound twink sopping wet hooking up with a 285-pound Latina. That is their idea of heterosexuality. And if you don't like it, you can always chop it off.
But even like Hassan, well, I don't know. I guess Hassan Piker lifts weights, but like
back in my day, the Democrats used to be straight. I remember Camelot. I remember when Democrats were so cool that we would have Marilyn Monroe sing Happy Birthday, Mr. President, when Jackie wasn't around.
We had Jane Fonda partying with...
We used to fuck.
We had Jane Fonda partying with the North Vietnamese army. That was pretty cool.
We had coal burners like Jane Fonda. What happened?
Did you see Jane Fonda was at the No Kings protest? She looks pretty good for 80 years old. I gotta say.
That's all plastic. That's as plastic as the pump that gets me hard.
Yeah, like they got the pump for the,
I used to do cocaine off the Addison's riddled spine of President Kennedy.
Addison Rae.
You want to talk about getting your head blown off? That was the way to do it.
Man, Slick Willie must have had immaculate
parties. In my day, Democrats used to have sex.
Christ, that thing looked like a slug. Oh, man. Bill Clinton, you thought he had a big dick, he had a little dick.
I can't find that video to save my life. I remember it. I can't find it to save my life.
Stavros couldn't even save Goddamn. It's true. Nick Mullen, and apparently Adam Friedman, he's becoming like a cultural icon for like the remnants of the dirtbag left. Like apparently he's very popular.
Because he was like the last funny leftist.
Yeah. He really fumbled the bag with Dasha though. I mean, Dasha's
like
married.
I know I'll get in trouble. There are some funny bits of Cumtown, and that's a bit.
There's tons of funny bits.
There's some funny bits there, but that whole ecosystem is fucking dead.
Yeah,
and the only people that got out while the going was good are the guys that were like basically becoming like, I don't know, like chauvinistic.
Josh Citarella.
Chauvinistic, like, art ho hipster fascists, like whatever they call Times Squares these days. Like they got out when the going was good, they took the bag and they fucking ran with it. Now no one talks about them anymore because they realize if I say anything right now, they're going to crucify me. So they kind of just like stay in the ether and they kind of like pander to their millennial pay piggies or whatever's
or
left
they
of
sold
them.
their soul to Barry Weiss and became a centrist.
That's true. And now they're like, now we're here with the free press to talk about how we're totally not being funded by a foreign entity.
Who's the free press funded by?
I mean, it's Barry Weiss's rag, so I'm just going to assume that there are some foreign dollars in there.
Well, it's not like they accused the Exile or whatever of being funded by Russia or
no.
Like no, but like, did you see? Well, we're not going to talk about the Glenn Greenwald. No, we're not going to talk about that.
Oh, I did not watch the video. I saw stills of it, but like, why was everyone so surprised that like a degenerate homosexual got caught doing degenerate homosexual activities? Why is this surprising?
No, but the fact that he was into Fendom, financial domination. Like, what is the kink there? Like, he had to wire the guy $8,000 while he was getting sissied. Like, it's just, I can't.
I don't here's the reason why. You want to know why I don't understand?
I could make some wife. You could make some wife joke about that. Oh, why do they do it as a kink where it's me and my wife? That's every day.
If I ever turn into like a boomer, like where wife bad is what comes out of my mouth, I want you to kill me. Like, chat, hear me out now. If I turn into like a lame boomer wife guy F-slur, you have every right to find me and kill me. Just end me. You know, like just do it. Because if I turn into like those wife guy F slurs where they're like emasculated, I hate my wife, you just end it. You have full permission to end me publicly.
How do I get people to send me money? Okay, it's called, you start a FetLife account, you type in Fendom, financial.
You know why I don't understand financial domination, Gio? It's because I'm poor. Oh yeah, baby, let me drain my balls and drain my account for $8,000 before I get it going. Like, dude, no, $8,000? I can buy a used car with that. Fuck you. That's why I don't understand financial domination. I'm poor.
Oh, missile strike inbound. Oh, I see. That was a Barry Weiss joke.
It's a true nuke inbound. That's
brain rot. No, but the Glenn Greenwald thing, like, it's just, he like really tried to normalize this sort of like post-left discourse. He was the one that like funneled a lot of them in, and it's just like, listen, I'm not gonna lie. There's some stories that Glenn Greenwald did. There's some work that he did.
I wonder how much other money he wired to strange brown people.
Well, that video was 9.
Did he give Tank Zorg money?
No, but the thing is, like, as a journalist, I do respect some of his work, but at the same time, you have to realize, like, there is a network of these people, and Barry Weiss and Konstantin Kisin and Glenn Greenwald and James Lindsay and all these people that like to pretend the cutting edge of discourse when they're really laundering the same old nostalgic, like, centrist liberal 1990s talking points. It's like I will say one thing, though. It was inevitable that Glenn Greenwald was going to break with these other people after October 7th for obvious reasons, because he still has that like anti-globalization, older leftist, very, very critical of that one particular ideology and that one nation in the Middle East. So his alliance with Barry Weiss and all those people was never going to last, right? Now, do I think it's a conspiracy that they leaked it? No. You know why? Because this guy retweeted himself, and he's got a humiliation fetish. And so I think like he was just like, I don't know, gooning one night. And then he woke up after the, substances wore off. And he's like, oh my God, I made a huge, kind of like Elon Musk. He woke up and he's like, oh my God, I made a huge mistake. But then he owned it because he's independent. It's not like he's working for Fox News or whatever. So in the grand scheme of things, this thing is just like a weird public humiliation spectacle, and there's nothing more you can confer this. There's no 5D chess of intelligence agencies leaking this video. He retweeted the video himself. Elon Musk had to clean it up. He banned our friend Nightmare F-Slur because of the video, but that wasn't Glenn Greenwald demanding that Elon censor people. It was just like bad optics for this cadre of like the Barry Weiss containment zone and the Elon Miles Chong and all these people that hover around Elon Musk. It's like, that's the network. It was embarrassing for them. But in the grand scheme of things, Glenn Greenwald's going to go on and continue on. And it's like, whatever, you know what I mean? It's not that important.
Yeah. I mean, just let it be.
Yeah, Nightmare Friend is back, though. Nightmare Friend is back. So
yes, Nightmare Friend is back. Apparently, you can pay him to as a commission to do whatever those crazy videos he makes are for. And I have ideas, but like I said, I'm poor.
The Greenwald one was pretty.
It was
wild.
pretty funny. He's
Yeah.
made some serious bangers over the years.
Oh, did you see who came back to Twitter?
Yes, I did. Molly meme is back on Twitter.
Yeah.
Stefan Molyneux is back on Twitter after a year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's had his account reinstated since like Musk bought the platform, but like,
Yeah.
I'm glad that he's back to posting and back to doing a show live on the air. I know he got banned from YouTube. I really want his YouTube account to come back.
Yeah. That's some jemmies.
There's some real gems there. And like I remember he got banned for COVID takes, but like he was like the first person I went to when they were doing all the like breakdown of all the like Ahmaud Arbery and other George Floyd shenanigans. And he's like, so this is all bullshit. And I'm going to break down frame by frame why this is all a lie for race baiting nonsense. And
that's why they got rid of him.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was good at his job. I'm sure that there are some takes that, you know, that you might disagree with on him, but like, if you wanted a normie friendly red pill guy, like, and I don't mean in the PUA sense, but like a guy to break down why daycare is bad and why you shouldn't leave your white children with like morbidly obese black daycare workers, it was him. So I mean, it was good stuff, and it's a weird nostalgia thing to see
it's
him
like when
back.
Millennial Woes came back to Twitter.
Yeah, like it's like, and I've said it before, but like, I'm usually with Carl Benjamin, which if you were to tell 10 years ago me who would listen to This Week in Stupid, Rush Limbaugh on the EIB network, and NPR's like All Things Considered in his 2006 Ford Taurus driving to school, that he would one day be mutuals with a guy that like kind of like influenced him politically. Insane. So like, there's some weird millennial nostalgia that all gets bought into all this. So I'd like, you know, it's good. It's good. I'm glad that Mr. Molyneux is back. I should give him the respect he deserves.
Yeah.
But yeah, Molly meme is back. That was a really nice, refreshing thing to see. So yeah, no, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, he's even streaming on
I know, and it was like I know that Twitter fucks with the numbers so easily, but it was like 30,000 live viewers, and I'm like, the problem with like Twitter monetization is that you can stream all this shit onto X, but like I don't get the ad dollars that I would get out of a good live stream or YouTube video I would from YouTube. So it's just like, I really don't care.
Well, I mean, I've been consistently getting like I think $50 a month from Twitter. Like, I don't know why. I guess because I delete too many tweets. So
I get anywhere from $50 to $120 every month, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like it paid for gas in my gas tank this month. Nice.
Maybe because I'm Canadian, they shaft me, or maybe it's because I delete too many tweets. But
it's because they know that your region is in a high Indian area, so they got to trip down on the.
Oh man, I'm glad it.
Like, but also like Twitter, like I had a moment to myself.
No, I love what Jay Ford said. He had a great saying. He goes, "For my friends, freedom of speech. For my enemies, the TOS."
That's true. That's true. For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the longhouse. But no, I had a moment. I had a moment last week where I was like, I understand why Gio deletes shit now, because I literally the laziest fucking tweet ever. Laziest tweet ever.
Such a great tweet. What was it again? It was
a screenshot of a green text about the decline of the magic of like McDonald's. And I said decline, imagine a depressed burger. I muted it, but when you mute a tweet, it does not stop it does not stop quote tweets. So I'm looking at this now. Decline. Imagine a depressed burger. June 10th, 2025. 1.7 million views. 63,000 likes. 5.4 thousand bookmarks. 847 comments. And I literally replied the next day. This lazy retarded post got over 1 million views. This place is terrible. Literally 13,000 views.
No, but those food ones, they always. Like, remember the Jack Posobiec?
I literally any tweet where I notice a reply and it's like to at Mr. Prudentialist at Jack Posobiec. I'm like, time to like go redact myself. Like, better go delete this banger because I don't want to deal with this nonsense. So I was like, I understand why Gio deletes his bangers now because this is retarded.
Yeah, that was like, but that like, were people angry though, or like
no, like the quote tweets were
some
like
people were angry though. Some people were like, you making too much of it. Like,
you read too much of it. And then other people were like reading way too much into it. And they were like, this is the consequences of neoliberal capitalism. And like, this is decline. And this is defensive
which it kind
architecture.
of is, but
And I'm like,
you know.
this is, guys, it's only a game. Why you have to be so
Yeah.
mad? Like,
We
it's
need a
only
forgotten
game.
Geo archive. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's
a
like
lot,
when- that's
a lot
like-
of your deleted bangers are on iFunny, by the way. I can go
Remember
look
that-
up. I can look
yeah.
up Gio Penichetti on iFunny. There's a lot of tweets you've deleted.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there like that. There was that one about. I think it was at the height of my insultdom. I kind of regret that reply. It got very popular and iFunny. But no, but it's like when the Leafs lost. I believe Hood Action News said fellow Canadian, and he had the guy that goes, you know,
Yeah.
that was so funny, man. Hood Action News. I was like, so when the Leafs got crushed by that last Game 7 by the Panthers, I was like depression posting on Twitter. It was a legendary run of just like, I am done. It's over. Like, and well, I guess tomorrow we'll see if the Edmonton Oilers are done. So, a Jonathan penalty for fake sell. Oh God, Bill Wilson. Oh no. I don't want to think about the Leafs. Well, Jan, you know that Marner's gone. So, I guess
who's left in the NHL playoffs?
Just the Oilers and the Panthers. And if the Panthers win tomorrow in Florida, they win the cup again. So
there you go.
Yeah, but who knows that maybe the Oilers can force another Game 7 where they choke. So that's pretty much. You know what? I actually had hopes for Dallas, but like Dallas, they actually fired their head coach Pete DeBoer because it's like the same choke every year.
Yeah, Dallas Stars has this great tendency of cocking it up in the end game.
Yeah, exactly.
I should probably go to a Stars game. I live close enough. I probably should.
A lot of people said their 99 cup was a fluke, but like that was because of like I don't know. You can't say that because like that rule was ridiculous where you couldn't like score a goal if you're like if their skate was like over the blue line from the goaltender. They got rid of that rule, but they didn't tell people that they got rid of it. So Buffalo was like
dumb.
So pissed. Buffalo, they refused to leave, but then Gary Bettman had to tell them, he's like, no, we actually privately changed that rule. So in overtime, the Dallas Stars won. I think it was it was Mike Modano that got the game-winning goal. Because the thing is, like, it was very difficult because you had two generational goaltenders. You had Dominic Hasek for Buffalo, which I hate to say, he's kind of like a libtard now. Like he supports Kamala Harris.
Oh no!
And then you have at Belfour, and like two just generational goaltenders going at it. It was crazy. Then Belfour went to the Toronto Maple Leafs after that. So that was.
I think I'll just take the woman to a Dallas Stars game just so I have
there you go
for a date.
Maybe when they play the Leafs, you could go and see, like Jack.
And I'll live tweet the game just so I can be like, "Hey, Gio, like this is where I'm at," and I can be like, making commentary on shit I have no clue about just to get under your skin.
But in terms of the Maple Leafs, Mitch Marner is finally gone, and I believe it's either going to be Carolina or Anaheim that pays him $14 million. For what reason? I don't know. He always turns off in the playoffs. But hey, money well spent, I guess. So I'm kind of glad that Mitch Marner's gone. Let's be real. But anyways,
for a football comparison, I have to laugh my ass off. This was a few years ago when the Dallas Cowboys decided we're going to hire Mike McCarthy as the head coach. You mean the guy that wasted the best years of Aaron Rodgers' life? Be my guest.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. More.
It's like
they ended up firing him or trading him off somewhere else. So I'm like, good luck there, Chuck.
It's like the Islanders picked up Brandon Shanahan. It's like, yeah, good luck with that. You know,
good luck there, you morons. Like,
what was the last?
Good luck.
There
you go. There's my sports take. I'm in the know because when I was in college, I had a dude who was like chronically obsessed with the NFL, and I had to learn the lingo if I wanted to like ever work with these people. So I can blend into the normie environment like a karma chameleon. I'm very good at it. I just hate doing it.
Wait, the last time the Cowboys were in the Super Bowl was 1995?
Last time Cowboys were in the Super Bowl. The last time they won was in 1996.
Oh my god.
That
They
was the
kind of are
last
like the
time.
Maple Leafs.
Yeah, that was their last Super Bowl appearance.
They haven't made the conference finals in decades.
Oh no, I mean they've made the playoffs plenty of times. They always lose in the playoffs. They have not made it to the Super Bowl, the end of the show, in almost 30 years.
Oh my god, the Buffalo Bills will win the Super Bowl.
Overweight Mexican guy driving a down low Tacoma or a fucking lifted F-250 telling you that this year is their year.
Yeah, the NFL
Catholicity of like Mexicans and their religious beliefs. It may not be Catholic anymore, but boy oh boy do they stick with it.
The NFL doesn't have any long-lasting dynasties like other leagues. No parallels to the Yankees, the Montreal Canadiens, or the Celtics.
No, they don't.
Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They used to. It's been about I want to say 15 years since you've had what would be like a dynasty, and the closest thing you get to like a dynasty is usually built around like one guy, like Brady and Bill Belichick, right? You know, like that's the closest thing you get to like a dynasty.
Wait, what were the Patriots and the Steelers though? They're kind of like a dynasty.
Yeah, kind of, but not really. The thing is that we incentivize trading so much now that like, the closest thing you get is like when teams kind of get like really fucked over, or like their senior guys kind of flush out. Then like you have like your rebuilding seasons, but it's
same
not like
with hockey.
It's not dynastic in the sense of what it used to be. Like it's not dynastic in the sense of like the 90s Cowboys or anything like that. Like it's just
the 90s Detroit Red Wings.
But even then it's like but really that's more centered around personality types than it is in like key, combos than anything else. So
well, that's like in the 70s, like nobody could have beat the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, even the Toronto Maple Leafs came close, but like nobody could have beat the Canadiens in the 70s. Like that's not going to happen. But no, someone said the Buffalo Bills are going to win in 2026. I hope. One of my aunts, she's like an insane Buffalo Bills fan. I kind of like the Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's like right next. I literally 20, 30 minutes away.
You kind of have your obligatory like geographic proximity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, I want the Buffalo Bills to win to make my aunt happy. So there you go. But other than that, like, I mean, I guess I could go for the Steelers. I don't know, but like, it's I watched a few football games, like when like my old man's friends would come over or whatever. But like, I never was into football, but like, I could see myself like enjoying it more than other sports. But no, I hope the Buffalo Bills win, but they're probably cursed. So kind of like the Buffalo Sabres, they're cursed. They're really. It's not looking good for the Buffalo Sabres, but Steelers ain't winning anything, Gio. That's too bad, man. I remember when I was younger, the Steelers were like on top of the world, like it was when I was
I remember them being like the team you rooted for by default if you were black.
I thought that was the Eagles.
No, well, for a while it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure it had something to do with a specific player or whatever. But like when I was growing up, like if you were black and you didn't have a football team to already root for, you were by default a Steelers guy.
You know what's funny is that Pittsburgh is the only city where they actually make it work between like blacks, Slavs, Italians, Irish, Germans. The only city in America where like the melting pot actually kind of works, unless you go to McKeesport, but that's a different story, right? Like it's the only like go for Philadelphia, forget about it. Pittsburgh, it kind of works. So gotta give it to those Yinzers. What is it, Cope? Maybe, but because it's still majority white. Because Pittsburgh's a city on the hill.
Yeah,
it literally is a city on numerous hills,
and it's funny because the biggest Pittsburgh Steelers fan I know is a like early Gen X white guy who works the trades. Like he would be the stereotypical like 1980s, like exactly. And it's just like it's very hard to find these days.
Yeah, like a lot of like Lithuanians and Polish people and Italian people trying to learn English while, trying to like scream like broken English at each other over like the steel mill machinery.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Apparently, ICE is reversing its order exempting farms, hotels, and restaurants from immigration raids after learning the White House didn't support it. Well, that's potentially good news if true.
Yeah.
That's a good note to end on, I suppose.
Well, I think like the worriment was the agribusiness in America taking a huge hit, but like it will take, like, no doubt it will take a temporary hit, but I think like there probably is enough like
Turns out you
native
could just pay
American
white people to
workforce.
do the job.
Yeah, you could just, yeah, or you know,
No
whatever
way.
FBA.
Oh yeah, it's from the Washington Post apparently. That's good news.
There you go. No, I mean I understand the argument of slow integration, but I just think that like it's kind of like it's very bad that a lot of industries in America have basically done the American people such a raw deal with illegal immigration for so long. And that there's like this whole Baroque way of like getting around the rules. They do this here in Canada, by the way, with migrant workers. There's like weird ways to like skirt the rules and everything. And like but apparently like in America, they have it like down to a science. Like the agribusiness, like getting illegals to work for them. Like,
well, that we have a visa system that's very easy to abuse, H-2B, which is usually for seasonal farm workers.
Yeah.
And it's, like, what I know everyone likes to do the like, well, everyone wants their slaves. And I'm like, yeah, like those conditions are really fucking awful. And I feel bad for a lot. I mean, like to have, I guess, my human sympathy or whatever. I do understand the desire to want reform, but my idea of reform is just to my idea of reforming that system would just be to kill it and to never let those people live in such conditions by never letting them into the country in the first place. I would rather fuck over every corporation in America if it meant that they had to pay American workers fairly. Like it's that simple.
That's socialism. That's right-wing wokeness.
I don't.
Corporations paying a living wage. That's wokeness. That's
well, yeah. Like this is the thing that killed me when for a blast from the past. Like I was given a lovely opportunity to review and to have a published book review of fucking what's his name, the Iranian leftoid.
Sohrab Ahmari?
Yeah, Sohrab Ahmari's book, Tyranny Inc. And I'm like, I'm reading this, and I'm like, there's some points I agree with here, but I agree with it for totally wrong reasons to Sohrab Ahmari. Because I'm like, well, gee, Mr. Ahmari, like, don't you realize all these big corporations purposefully keep their workforces ethnically diverse to prevent, like, to prevent unionization? Did you know Amazon does this?
Yeah.
Crickets. Race isn't mentioned in all of this entire book except for those poor innocent blacks. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, well, a lot of the issues that you want resolved for like justice and your like bleeding heart communist manifesto on one hand, Roman Catholic catechism in the other, is just like, this is race communism, but I will not call it a racial issue. I will not call it about immigration. And I'm like, well, because then the jig is up. Like, why are things so bad? The same reason why a lot of leftists were protesting against NAFTA and the WTO, because they knew that they would get flooded with like cheap foreign labor and they'd get fucked. Like, well, ironically, the left ceded that position. Like, that's the great irony of sort of all this, if you want to call it neoliberalism or whatever. It's just like the nativist right took up the mantle that the left was complaining about when it came to fair trade and work like 30 years ago.
Like even in America, like the FBAs as well, like the Foundational Black Americans, they're also at the short end of the stick. Do you notice how maybe it's because California is markedly less African American than what it was in the 1990s, but notice how with all of the black people that are in California, that none of them were at these anti-ICE protests?
Yeah.
It's very strange, right? But of course, because people in the media cannot be honest about these issues, except for like, I mean, I know like the odd like black conservative, like Jesse Lee Peterson will talk about it, but it's like, that is a real thing. Like, I mean, you know, if you consider the FBA, they're also being screwed over by the system because, and then also like the quality of food in America is affected by it. Because if you're paying people under the radar illegally, of course the product, like, some of the horror stories of all these migrant workers being doused in fertilizer and Roundup and not washing things and just like, all the health problems that come with it. And then you don't know the quality. Like, for example, I think there was a big batch of lettuce that had listeria or whatever recently because it came from migrant workers. And then there's all the other stories of uncleanliness that are whatever, unsubstantiated. But like, there's definitely something to that thesis that even from like a health angle, to have such a corrupted slave labor force system is just generally bad for people. And it's like, there's so many externalities of when you do things like that. Like the meat industry is terrifying in places like Texas and Arizona and California. Like the stuff they get away with all of that, like the migratory workforce in these in these plants and these butcheries, like it's just, it makes your skin crawl. Like that's the stuff you're eating, it's just, here in Canada, even we've had problems with that, like Maple Leafs Farms and other stuff. Like it's all the E. coli and the lettuce, and it's just, but what are you going to do? The ice thing. I don't know. I mean, protests were inevitable, though. I mean, let's be real here.
Yeah, let's not kid ourselves.
But anyways, it's getting late, so we'll cover the rest of.
Pay this fucker. Pay him now.
Super chats.
Give him money.
It's been a while.
I know a lot of you have been blue balled for like a month and a half. Give him money.
Money burning in your pocket. Yeah.
You've been waiting for this. I saw the comments in Telegram about injecting the shit into your veins. Now's your time to pay the piper, to pay the dealer before that sweet, delicious This is your findom. Pay Gio now, and maybe he'll call you a good boy.
Gio's a Canuck, so he has sympathy for FBAs. Being an American, having grown up close to them. I will admit my experience.
Gio, you're a foundational Black American. It's okay.
That's true.
You get the pass.
I will.
When the show finally ends, Gio will say the loudest hard R imaginable. You have to pay him $2,000 right now.
No, I'm not making that promise. I'm not. No.
Pay this man $10,000.
Maybe for $10,000, I'll sacrifice. But no, not even.
No.
No. I gotta say, like in a lot of the places in America that I've been, I have had a positive experience with, FBAs in America.
Never relax.
Well, I mean, it's because I'm going to places where they've, it's not like I'm going to Philadelphia.
It's not like he's not turning left on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard or anything like that.
24 in Lenox is the danger zone where you could get a hole of your own. Like it's 25th and Lenox is the danger zone. That was a great Big Al song about, he died where he lived in Lennox. Oh no, oh my God. For some reason, it's not showing up on the AutoStar.
Oh no, that sucks.
I'm going to have to scroll up.
You have to scroll manually. Well, let's start with entropy then.
Oh, let's start with entropy.
Give Gio money now.
I prefer entropy because, of course,
it takes a smaller cut.
Oh boy, let's go from small to large. Okay, so we have Sean Schaefer, our good friend, for $5. Good to see my second favorite podcast. Who's your first favorite podcast?
Who's your first favorite podcast, motherfucker?
I think
Answer now.
Good to see my second favorite podcast back on the air. It gets so bad I almost hired some people on Fiverr to read a DA script I wrote to get my fix. I'll save it for when you guys go on another hiatus. God bless. I wonder if
why don't you send us the script, and if you pay us enough money, we'll just read it next week.
We'll read it, yeah. Or you get like ChatGPT to like run all the DA episodes.
That's terrifying. That's actually terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm terrified to have a ChatGPT summarization of the last 125 episodes of this show. That's a terrifying thing to think about.
Take a loan out to give Gio Super Chat so he can say Groiper. And then Sam153 for $5. Chance of Oilers taking it to Game 7. Will McDavid ever win a cup? Okay. Last year, they fought their way after a 3-game deficit to Game 7. This year, I'm not so sure. I think the Panthers are locked in. I think Connor McDavid can never win a cup in Edmonton. He's got to go to an American team. That's the only way he's going to win a Stanley Cup. I hate to say it, but Edmonton's going to throw him so much money that he's probably going to stay there forever, unfortunately. But what are you going to do? Who knows? Maybe when Sidney Crosby retires, he can go to the Penguins. So let's go to Novum for $10. Good to see you two again back on stream with love from KC. Cheers. Is that Kansas City?
I would presume so. Kansas
Boss
City,
is back at
or Kansas City, Missouri.
Maybe Kansas City, Missouri. The boss is back at KC. They didn't see what was going on. That was a good casino reference. Apparently, casino's on Tubi again, so I'm gonna have to go watch it. Who's next? Berwick for $25. So you're telling me I can just keep DA going by paying for anime reviews?
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Although I don't know, that might be good for my psychosecurity, sir, but potentially.
Oh boy. And J4 for $30. I'm poor. Thank you, J4.
I'm poor. That's why I don't understand financial domination. I'm poor. That's literally how I'm going to I'm going to tweet that one out. I don't understand findom. I'm poor.
Isn't like paying your favorite streamers kind of like findom?
No, because like there's no sexual element to it. Like I'm not like edging you over text as I talk about draining you while you drain your bank account. Like I've seen the bots.
We've seen these videos. Yeah.
Like I've seen bots. I've seen this like spam shit on Twitter. Like that's the worst part about Twitter spam, like the advertisements. Because it can range anything from like African evangelicals to like gay findom to Democrats to everything. And I'm like, I have personalized ads turned off. So I get everything.
You're going to advertise the Baldo on Twitter soon.
And it's just like, oh no, like
Gio is 30 and still can't operate a touring club.
What I want to do is, I know he's 30 something years old because I will say this though: the guy who paid us to review this show, I couldn't find a good link to torrent it, and so he had to send us a place to do it. He even sent us like a large zip file to do it.
It was on archive.
Did not work, by the way. So I watched it on this like free to watch anime site, which thankfully my computer is still working, so that's good news.
There you
go. But
thank you, Jay Ford. That was incredible.
You, Jay Ford. I'm poor. Same, Jay Ford. Same.
And Sam153 for $50. Let's get some subs for 50 subs. Totally ripping off PvP. DA is back with the boys. It's been too long. Glad to hear the bants, current affairs, and laughs fly again. Cheers. Thank you, Sam153.
Thank you, Sam.
Bottom of our heart. And now I have to scroll up because for some reason Entropy isn't making me see the thing. So let's see. Because I want to highlight them, you know what I mean? Like I want to.
Yeah, you haven't really highlighted any comments today.
I highlighted some. I may have to actually go to YouTube.
Oh no!
Yeah, I may actually have to, unless like Auto Star. What if I turn it off? It's not doing it. Like it shows that it's starred, but it's not like.
It doesn't have the starred comments on the.
Yeah, that's right. Really weird.
Well, if it doesn't do that to me next week, that would be really upsetting.
Well, I know that StreamYard was having problems.
Yeah, it was the other day. So we'll see.
You know what? I'm probably gonna have to go.
He's going to the live feed. He's digging in. He's doing what he's got to do.
YouTube Creator Studio.
Go to the super chats. Time to read them.
This
is why, like, again, it's not financial domination when you send it to us. There is no sexual gratification that you will ever get from this show. And if you get it, please seek professional help, or I will find you myself and beat you with hammers. But if you're into that, then I'm going to have to find some other way to deny you.
Minecraft. Okay, let's see.
Have to throw diamond hands
March
on this
20. Oh, here we go.
We're in
Fans hang for $5. Glad to have you back, gents, from Fensheg, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, sure.
And Dunk, the short-legged Mac Daddy, for $1.99. Any chance Matthew McConaughey wins in 2028?
No, unless he runs for like governor.
Yeah, he could run.
I know there's been talks about him running for governor in Texas, but here's the thing. I don't think he will, because I think he's finally got a film or TV project off the ground with Nick Palazzo to do some like noir thing. That was a funny comment. So I don't think that McConaughey will run. I don't think the Dems will run a celebrity in 28. I think celebrity like endorsement power has kind of died.
Yeah, unless they run like Dave Bautista or whatever. No, probably not. Oh god, I hate Bautista. Anyways,
remember when people thought The Rock turned gay?
Remember when people thought The Rock was going to run, but then he like became a Trump supporter?
Well, he did that. Didn't they have like a whole gay TV show about like the young Rock, where he was talking about like his life? It was almost like Everybody Hates Chris. But it was like the whole premise was like The Rock is running for president, or he is president, and they're like giving this biopic about his young life or whatever.
Yeah, everybody hates The Rock.
That like, what a weird like it's been 10 years of just like the most psycho crushing decade of politics ever. Am I really glad to be alive during it? Yes. It's been so good. But also at the same time, holy fuck, the irreparable damage done to like the American, like the English speaking noosphere is irreparable.
Everybody grapes Nash. I feel like, okay, he is a libtard, but like, I kind of feel bad for Kevin Nash because he's kind of like, there's something going on with him mentally. So like he lost his son, and it's just, anyways, whatever. I grape you, you grape me, we're a grape family. Actually, Novum sends $5 again. Says this is indeed Kansas City. Prudentialist is spot on. The basket weaving scene is here and growing steadily. Let us know if you ever come down, and your cigars will be on me. Oh, yeah, there you go, Kansas City.
Well, that's very kind. I don't know if I will ever be in Kansas City anytime soon, but I will keep my options open.
What's the matter with Kansas? So Gabe Underground for $9.99. Our good friend Gabe. Cheers, brothers. Glad to see my e-fathers back together. Thoughts on FT4, by the way, fellow Purple Princess Plapper. I kind of like, I mean, I haven't been like obsessively glued to the screen, but I quite like how season 4 is shaping up. I kind of do feel bad for Rachel. Like they're making fun of her because her friend got redacted, and I'm not gonna lie.
Gio, speaking of Gabe, Gio, have you seen that photo of Gabe from like seeing Sam Hyde live?
No.
Oh my god, you two are like a generation apart. Like he is the Zoomer version of you. He is just like, it's so good. It's so good. Now that I know what Gabe looks like, everything makes sense now.
Oh my god, I gotta see this photo.
It was I'll let you in on it. But like, oh man, I was like, I literally had told Capitalissimo, I was like, holy shit, it's Gio.
Zoomer Gio sounds horrible.
Zoomer Gio is Gabe. Have you ever listened to a Tukey Sidebar podcast episode? It is the most deranged sexual shit mixed with a dash of Baudrillard and Camille Paglia.
Even less of a filter, yeah.
It's a less filtered Gio. Is exactly what Zoomer Gio is. Is a hornier, less filtered Gio.
Zio uncle. There you go. Gabe pronounces things worse than Gio somehow. Oh my god. Oh man, that's brutal. No, but okay, I do feel bad. This is season 4 of Fish Tank Live. That's only day 4. I do feel bad for the TTS cracking Rachel, but I'm not gonna lie.
Is this the fat girl?
Yes.
Okay.
She had a friend that was a victim of violence. The TTS went in on her, and it's just it's brutal. I feel so bad for her. I feel terrible, but some of those moments kind of were funny. Like they were like kind of like in a ooh, like I can't believe you went there sort of way. But no, I think like unfortunately I don't see Rachel going far. I mean, they're like vicious towards her. I kind of like the Australian stripper girl. She's got kind of like a fun vibe. She can be vicious when she wants to be. She can be friendly when she wants to be. It's like I kind of like her. As for the guys, like that one field musician guy kind of gets on my nerves. The guy with like the gig scars on his head he's like, whatever. The guys aren't that strong relative to the women this season, whereas season 2 was dominated by guys, except for what's her name? The skinny girl. I forget her name. But no, I think like I think season 4, a woman's going to win again. Will it be like Letty or whatever? I don't think so. But
I don't think you're ever going to get another Letty type figure.
You're never going to get another Letty. You know what they did this season?
They don't want like an autistic hikikomori skinny mid to be salivated over by people like Gabe.
Yeah, they don't want Josie again. You know what they did? They let an 18-year-old high school girl onto the show with like 30-plus-year-old guys. And there's this Japanese guy, or he's half Japanese, a Hapa. He was born and raised in British Columbia, but he moved back to Japan. He's literally like the stalker in Perfect Blue. He's literally like that guy. He's like,
that's terrifying.
He's like drooling over this 18-year-old girl. It's like, oh my God, what did Jet Neptune do? What did Jet do? It's just like, oh, he got kicked today?
The only good Hapa I have ever met is Barack Obama. That's it. That's the only good Hapa I have ever met.
Obama's a Hapa?
Oh yes.
Oh my God. That's incredible. Jet kicked him on an hour ago. Oh my God. I was prepping for the show. I didn't see it. Well, the clip channels are probably gonna have it. So same head shape and eyes. it's terrifying. No. They had to kick him. Like, what did you expect? Gio shows up on Fish Tank as Macho Man Randy Savage and gives him a German suplex.
Can we get Gio on? Can we get Gio on Fish Tank? Let's get.
If
Gio
anyone knows Sam Hyde, I'm gonna go.
Wait a second. I'm mutuals with Sam Hyde. I should just try and make this happen. Get this art ho on Fish Tank.
I will be a freeloader on Fish Tank. I will be like, I will try to perfect what. Airsoft Fatty walked, so I could slightly walk.
So he could slightly walk faster. Airsoft Fatty waddled so Gio could walk. Sam, listen, buddy, you and I are mutuals. I don't know how it happened, but while we're at it, let's go make this happen for season 5.
Oh my God.
Let's get Gio on there. Let's get our millennial old head so his girlfriend can crucify him on air via TTS if he talks to an 18-year-old girl awkwardly. Let's make it happen.
No, I'll probably go for the Australian girl. I wouldn't, I'm not going over anything. I'm hitched up, but like, you know what I mean.
Like engaged or just taken?
Not taken. I mean, it's kind of like being engaged, but like, from Airsoft to Philip. Oh my God, that would be amazing.
A portrait of a sensitive young man as he's painting all of the other contestants.
No, it's true. I'd start like doing sketches of every other contestant. Like, Gio wins by breaking all the contestants' sanity by talking about the Leafs and analyzing Kanye's elbow. Oh my God, that'd be crazy. No, but they got this failed musician guy that's like in his 30s, but he's kind of like a loser. Then they got like
it's over.
Yeah, it's like who else do they got? What other? Oh, they got like this skinny, like Spurgy type of guy with scoliosis.
Oh no!
It's like he's trying to like he did one set of bench press, and he starts like walking around without his shirt, like he thinks like doing one. That was crazy. No, but they're really ragging on Rachel. They're really so Gabe got his $9 worth by us talking about.
That was the other people gave more expensive super chat. Well done, Gabe. You've done it again.
We're gonna have another content minded episode with Gabe
Of
after
course you
season
will.
4, of course.
Of
So
course.
I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, season 3 did not do it for me. I didn't like season 3. But hopefully season 4. No, okay, so here we go. $6.99 Canadian by Jan. I don't want to talk about this. I did not
I can't
want
see
to.
the super chat, so
$6.99 by Jan JF Wife Borger.
oh yes.
He had the A&W team burger.
I saw that. I don't know how much I want to say on it other than I've had some good burgers in my time.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you can commemorate a sketchy disappearance and just be like, here's a burger. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm just not accusing anybody. Not accusing anybody.
I don't know what Canadian or American libel laws look like in that regard, but that's all.
It was kind of a deranged post. Let's just leave it at that.
Just tasteless.
Yeah, very tasteless. The team burger is no mushroom Swiss. They have mushroom Swiss at A&W.
They brought a mushroom Swiss to Whataburger recently.
Man, I wish it was man, like a lot of northern states don't have like Whataburger.
And it's changed hands and it's kind of gotten worse. My go-to for burgers, and this sort of geographically like narrows me down just a tad, but you all know I'm in Texas. Brahms is where it's at, buddy. Brahms has my favorite fast food burger and my favorite ice cream that you can get at a fast food joint. So I'm on team Brahms all the way.
Oh man. Oh, we have Culver's up here.
A Culver's just opened in where I live. I've only been there
Culver's
once.
Near my girlfriend. I got to see.
I wasn't impressed.
I heard that Culver's isn't that great though. Yeah,
I wasn't impressed.
I remember asking my girlfriend about Cane's, and she's like, "Yeah, it's so-so. It's not like
it's hit or miss."
Yeah, it's hit or miss. They say Brahms is like next level, though. They say Brahms is next level.
Well, Brahms is still like a really affordable fast food joint despite inflation, but like the burger, you're there for the burger. But I mean, the ice cream too. The ice cream is really fucking good. But like the burger is delicious. It's great. I love Brahms.
They say Shake Shack is good.
I haven't been to a Shake Shack in years, and I haven't been to a Steak and Shake in forever. Although there's a Steak and Shake within driving distance to me, but I don't go. Like, I feel bad because I'm a foodie in the sense that like any place I go, I love eating places and reviewing them and talking about it. My mom thinks it's hilarious that like every time I would go out somewhere, I would talk about like the restaurants or whatever. Like, there's a place in Charlotte called Jeffrey's that was really good. I really would recommend that.
Best Texas barbecue place you've been to?
The Salt Lick outside of Austin.
Oh, they say the Salt Lick is the best, but they say it's pricey though. I remember
it's worth the money.
It's like $150 a thing.
A little less than that. It's less than that. It just depends on what you're ordering, but like I enjoy it. Salt Lick's probably my favorite like barbecue place I've ever been to in Texas. I don't go there very often because I'm not in Austin very often anymore. But
it's in Austin.
It's outside of Austin, but I mean it's in the Austin area. It's still worth your time. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
I haven't found a good barbecue joint near me, so I just make barbecue with my dad, and that's kind of what I do now.
There you go.
I'm going to put a smoker on my wedding registry so I can continue to do what I've been doing.
Report of the week collab when? That'd be crazy.
Oh no! Like, are you talking about like the
review bra?
No, I don't want that. I've had that comparison made to me before, and I'm not going to lie, it hurts my soul.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a mustache.
Yeah, I know, but it still hurts.
I mean, you're not as lanky as him, though. Like you're not.
No. The anti-rejection meds and the steroids have made me a little more rotund than I would like to be. But that's a small price to pay for living.
A small groiper snack. A small groiper snack. Small groiper meal.
A succulent groiper meal.
Oh man. That's called Papa Burger. Educate yourself, Chud. Oh yeah, the Papa Burger is the mushroom melt one. Yeah. Don't talk to me or my son ever again.
Don't talk to me or my son ever again.
Anyway, so no, let's not talk about JF. It's just I know it's funny. I think the tweet was deranged, but
it's not good taste. That's all I'm going to say.
If you want the best JF takes, just go to Kino Casino. I hate to say it.
Go to the guys who will say what we won't.
It's funny because JF, he did this live stream with these Alberta housewives, the Real Housewives of Alberta, and they were
The
like
Real Housewives of Alberta,
and they're just like literally like reading Kiwi Farms. They're like, JF, why the fuck? Just shut up. Just shut up. Just that's all you have to do. Just talk about the revolutionary.
I think I'm not gonna lie. If I had
burgers.
If I had a Kiwi Farms thread that was like the size of his,
Yeah.
I would seriously just go offline. I would seriously rethink my.
I would quit the internet. Yeah, forever.
Like I would rebrand and like stay anonymous and under a new account.
Change my name.
Start over.
Yeah.
If I ever had
if you had like Ethan Ralph size Kiwi Farms thread.
Oh, dude, I would just like
it's over.
Disappear into Mexico and then never return. If I ever get that internet infamous, like I said, if I ever turn into a lol cow or a wife guy F slur, you have every right to find me, hunt me down, and destroy me. That's like
the one from remember the Hanson Productions the
yes.
Yeah, he's like, take your gun out. I love that one. I love that meme. One of the better Mr. Grove memes of the dropping the.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to the super chats. Matty Ice for $5, sending this on behalf of. Oh my god!
Is it another one?
Dave Portnoy actually offending against a fisheye lens griper. What? Is this the trash that you people are consumed by? I feel bad. I feel bad.
Talk about a groiperous snack.
We were gonna bringing the show back. I kind of feel guilty for enabling this type of behavior through my supercilious manner. It's just like what is that super chat? What is that?
A succulent groiperous meal.
Well, you know what's funny, Donald Trump Gaming? I was mentioning Kiwi Farms, I think about like once or twice, and it was all in the Campbot thread. So after Campbot snaking,
that's some old head shit right there that you really don't need to worry about.
You know what's funny? There was one of these like Substackers.
Yeah.
He wrote about the gallery, and I don't know whether to be offended at this. He said that my paintings look like Caspar David Friedrich if he was a gay guy that read Bronze Age pervert.
That could be worse.
Apparently I'm a gay. Yeah, I mean, well, he compared me to Caspar David Friedrich. I was pretty, but then he's like, Caspar David Friedrich, if he was a gay guy that read Bronze Age Mindset. I go, okay, that's something. That's
like I said, it could be worse.
Oh man, Gio at least do a proper sports stuff. Well, maybe one day. So let's move on. But thank you for that very strange super chat, Matty Ice. Then subject to change, our good longtime listener and friend for $9.99. Good stream, boys. Thank you, subject to change. Then Hazel for $1.99 says 40 hours of pay from job at Xianyan Steel Factory. Whoa! Well, there you go. I mean, the Chinese steel industry.
I hope you haven't been eaten by a lathe or anything like that.
The Russian lathe video. And finally, Big Ben for $10. And it's just a particular letter. I'm not going to say which letter. You know the one. You know the letter. Don't post it in the chat. Do not post it in the chat. I will remove you. Don't do it, okay? Yeah, it's Q. There you go. Let's just say it's Q. Let's go with that. We're going to go with
you. Are we being told to trust the plan here all of a sudden? What the hell?
Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it. No, we're breaking up this tower. We're breaking the walls down.
Okay.
Trust the plan.
It could be worse.
Quebecois? Yeah, exactly. We're going with that.
Quebecois?
It's funny. It's like Quebec, they're at the Bloc Québécois.
Guapus meal?
They're actually coming down pretty hard in the immigration thing. That was The
Good for
leader of the
them.
block. Yeah.
Good for
yeah.
them.
Yeah. He actually legitimately said no more Indians. He like literally said that.
Good for them.
Oh man, tower defense activated. Chat slowly erasing words for Gio's mind till he can't speak at all.
So true.
Oh man.
So true.
Quebec Groiper. Oh my god. Well, anyways, this has been fun. It's been a return to form.
It has
And
been a
unless-
return to form. I have
Yeah.
enjoyed this way more than I thought I would, which is a good sign.
Yeah, me too. I had, you know,
I
yeah,
had worries, but
yeah,
it was
worries.
good.
Oh my god. I told you, man, it was just something when me and Dimes get ask Cryptos. See, we were on the 100th episode recently of Cryptos' Seeking the Hidden Thing. It was the 100th episode of me and Dimes. For some reason, when me and Dimes get together, something happens. I don't know. It's just but anyways, we'll be on Prude's channel.
We'll be live next week.
Maybe Tuesday.
Am I doing anything next Tuesday? No, Tuesday actually works great.
Okay, because I'll be back home Tuesday. So,
Great. Then it's next Tuesday.
And as for content, I'm starting
I have
to
a video out
record
tomorrow.
the 2001 review. But yeah, what video do you have out?
Oh, I have a. It's a real talk, but it's about artificial intelligence and psychic security.
And you were on
I've been on
Shield
Orange
today.
twice in the last week and a half, which has been fun.
But you know what's funny about the one today though is I feel like news and events would change to where some of the takes may or may not be applicable. But I mean
I feel like Oren and I have the same position where it's like we shouldn't be giving Israel any money.
Yeah.
So
apparently the explosions reported in East Tehran create heavy smoke columns.
Oh well, we'll find out in a couple.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. That's all I can say.
But I mean, I more or less agree with you and Oren's take. I think that maybe a lot of people are panicking about the Trump greenlighting engagement, but let's be real, it's going to be
if anything,
boots on the ground is not happening.
It'll be intercepting missiles.
Exactly, or limited engagement bombing runs. That's pretty much
I imagine maybe refueling and stuff. But
I mean, not to cope, it's a bad move, but at the same time, I mean, you have to in between trusting the plan and being, I hate the term panicking, but for argument's sake, in between trusting the plan and being a panicking, the truth lies. So, yeah. I mean, hopefully nothing comes of this. People will forget in a week, and we'll go back to talking about how America's ready to have a monarch in Trump at any moment now. He's ready to have the regalia. He's going to have the purple sash. Any moment now, Trump is going to become the king, and Curtis Yarvin will.
You hear that? We're ready for Caesar.
Yeah. Yeah, and then JD Vance will be the Marcus Aurelius of America. So anyways, this is great. We'll see you next week. And let's see the super chats.
Yeah, go refresh your YouTube studio one more time, buddy.
Yeah, okay, YouTube studio. Let's see. Community earnings, supers. No, that's it. Big Ben was the last one.
Any on entropy real quick?
Nope.
All right, then we're good for the night.
All right, so as we always say, God bless, goodbye. Too sweet.
See you next week, gents.